Chaplain Paul Ellis from the Maricopa Police Department to give our invocation, after which I'd ask Vice Mayor Marvin Brown to lead us in the pledge. Please rise.
Mr. Mayor, council members, colleagues, and friends, would you bow with me in prayer? Our Heavenly Father, we have so much to be thankful for in our community, and we come tonight to rejoice in the good things that have taken place and what will take place. We ask for your wisdom, your presence, and your peace tonight as decisions are made that influence and affect our community. May they all be done in honor and glory to you. We give you thanks tonight, and may this time be blessed. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you, Chaplain. Appreciate it. Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm working on that. This time I'd like to move to a roll call, please.
Councilmember Chapados? Here. Councilwoman Gussie? Here. Councilmember Manfredi?
Here.
Councilmember Smith? Here. Councilmember Wade?
Here.
Vice Mayor Brown?
Here.
Mayor Price?
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Great. Thank you very much. At this time we have a couple of proclamations. Want to come down there? I'll be just a moment. We'll do this the hard way. All right. Tonight we have two proclamations. At this time we'd like to invite Yolanda Ewing and James Trippett and all those who'd like to accompany you up for this proclamation. Would you come on up, please? How are you? Come on, stand right up here in front. Sorry, stand a little closer. We got to read the microphone here. How are you guys? Good. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm trying to keep up with you. All right. This time, whereas cities across America have been plagued by numerous problems associated with alcohol, tobacco, and other drug use, and whereas there's hope in winning the war on drugs, and the hope lies in the hard work and the determination of our communities to create a drug-free environment. And local leaders in government and in the community know that the support of the people in the neighborhoods is the most effective tool that they can have in their efforts to reduce the use of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs by Arizonans. And whereas success will not occur overnight, and our patience and continued commitment to drug education and prevention are imperative. Whereas the red ribbon was chosen as a symbol commemorating the work of Enrique Kiki Camarena, a Drug Enforcement Administration agent who was murdered in the line of duty and has come to represent the belief that one person can make a difference. Whereas the Red Ribbon Campaign was established by Congress in 1988 to promote this belief and encourage a drug-free lifestyle and involvement in drug prevention efforts. And whereas October 23rd through the 31st, 2017, has been designated National Red Ribbon Week, calling on all Americans to show their support for a drug-free state by wearing a red ribbon and participating in drug-free activities during that week. Now, therefore, I, Christian Price, Mayor of the City of Maricopa, do hereby proclaim October 23rd through the 31st as Red Ribbon Week in Maricopa. Encourage all citizens, businesses, public and private agencies, media, religious, and educational institutions to wear and display the red ribbons and participate in drug-free activities throughout the week, joining the rest of the state in promoting the Red Ribbon celebration and a drug-free America. I know that these guys do an awesome job of that. As you can see, they're all wearing red tonight. Let's give them a big round of applause for their efforts.
This is the new one. No. I told you they were Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to present to council, we have our promotion items to support Red Ribbon Week, and we would like to give you our first initial gifts out to let you know and how much we appreciate you all supporting us in this effort. Thank you.
I need two. We need one more. We need, no, thank you guys.
All right. We have another proclamation this evening. Gabby, where'd you go? I see you out there somewhere. Right there, Gabby. Gabby, would your group come on up? Love to have everyone that's with you. So you may or may not already be thinking about it. I know it's only October and you have to get through Halloween first, but the fact of the matter is we try and think ahead of time, and we had a very kind reminder that this up and coming November, November 11th specifically, is Veterans Day. And as you all know, it's really important to support our veterans, and I think that we all do it in different ways, but at the end of the day, some of these folks really do a great job of it. And so we wanted to give them a proclamation this evening as well. And it says, whereas the willingness of America's veterans to serve our country has earned them our lasting gratitude, and whereas Veterans Day continues to be celebrated and commemorated with solemn observances in honor of all Americans who have served their country in times of war and conflict, and whereas Veterans Day has become a significant part of our American heritage as we recognize the millions of our citizens whose military services have had a profound effect on history, and throughout the generations, their sacrifices have preserved our unique form of government dedicated to human rights and respect for the individuals. And whereas in honor of these dedicated men and women, we pledge continued defense of our nation, so that their sacrifice will stand before the entire world as a tribute to the spirit and determination of people dedicated to the principles of freedom and democracy. And whereas the courage, honor, sacrifice, dedication which veterans of the United States Armed Forces have displayed in the cause of justice, freedom, and democracy are most worthy of recognition. Now therefore, I, Christian Price, Mayor of the City of Maricopa, do hereby recognize November 11th, 2017 as Veterans Day in the City of Maricopa, and urge all citizens to recognize the valor, the sacrifice, and all of the other things that they have gone through of our veterans, and to remember that freedom is not free, and that these are the men and women who paid for the freedom that all of us today enjoy. Thank you very much to all of our veterans in this community, and thank you for all you guys do. All right, thank you very much. That concludes our proclamation section. At this time, we'll move to the report from the mayor. Just very briefly, just wanted to, there's been a lot going on, as you know. I'm not going to go through it all today, but we had the State of the City here recently. For those of you who were able to attend, hopefully you got to learn something and a little bit about our city. I think that was a very successful event. And then at the same time, we have the opportunity now to there's a lot of things going on, let's just put it that way. Trying to think of all the things to tell you. I usually write them all down because there's so many of them, but suffice it to say, we've been working very closely with hoteliers and other businesses that are looking to locate here. I just want to keep you posted and updated that we are always meeting with individuals, building relationships so that we can move these projects forward. They take a long time, but in the end, you got to keep going and going and going so that just like the Energizer Bunny, you finally get to that point where you want it to be. We have some guests with us here tonight. I'd like to have them stand. We have a group from Maricopa as well as from outside Maricopa, the DECA students and VISTA students. And if you guys would all stand up and be recognized, I'd like to thank you for being in attendance of our council meeting tonight. Council, you told them that we'd make this really exciting for them tonight, so I need you to do a little song and dance and stuff, okay? No, we thank you for being here. We thank you for participating in the process, and we had an opportunity to speak with them a little bit earlier. So with that, we'll move to the report from the city manager.
Mayor and council, I would be remiss if I didn't take advantage of this large audience as well as our internet audience and put in a shameless plug for the mud run. I would ask our interim community services manager, Fred Gray, to come up and introduce.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, Mr. Rose. As indicated, as the mud run is coming up, that'll be Saturday, October 28th, and I believe it starts the first heat at 7 a.m. But part of that is the mini Copa mud run. Say that real fast 3 times and you're good. So with that, I think that starts at 10 o'clock. That's for ages 5 to 11. And so I think we have a video to show just to promote that and get the community excited about coming out on Saturday, October 28th. We hope to see you all there.
Hi Maricopa, Mayor Christian Price here. I'm out here at the Maricopa Mud Run training today with these 5 to 11-year-olds, and we are training for the Mini Copa Mud Run, which will be held on Saturday, October 28th. So, you guys ready to go out and start training for this mud run? Yeah! All right, let's go! Mud Run is on Saturday, October 28th. We hope you'll come out and join us. As you can see, we've had a successful day of training, right guys? Was that a good day of training? And it'll be Saturday, October 28th. The mini mud run actually takes place at 10 a.m. and you can go to the website at Copper Sky or the city's website and sign up. It's $20, and of course you get to run with your parents, and the parents are free. And if you guys come in costume and run in costume, there's special prizes. So I hope to see you out here at the Maricopa Mud Run on October 28th, that Saturday. Have fun. Good job, you guys.
an outstanding job to all those that were involved in the creation of that short video, and especially the mayor. Just an amazing trooper, I will tell you. You're right, he does deserve a hand, just being willing to do that. Mayor and council, that concludes my report.
Thank you. So not only did they make me run it, they make me run it twice. All right, thank you very much. Hopefully you'll be out at the mud run. It's a lot of fun. And that will take us through item 6 on the agenda, which is the call to the public. We have quite a few speaker cards. So for your convenience and everybody else's, we ask that you approach the podium. I'll call you by name here. And if you'd approach the podium, tell us your name and what's on your mind, just so you know. Remember, we can't typically respond because these are not agendized items, but we do want to hear from you and we want to hear what you have to say. And if there's something we can get back to you on, then we'll make sure that we or staff will do that. Also, we have a little timer up here, so if you can kind of watch the timer here, it'll go green and then yellow and then red and have a nasty little buzzer sound, which nobody likes getting, so if you would kind of respect that, that'd be wonderful. So let's start with Becky Check. Come on, Becky, on up.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Becky Check. I am here tonight to bring to your attention that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I'm only going to share one statistic with you tonight, and that is 1 in 8. 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime. This is a very real number. If you think of all the women that you know, and then consider that 1 out of every 8 of them will be diagnosed with breast cancer, this number becomes very real. I have been diagnosed with breast cancer. I am 1 in 8. For many of you, I'm not the first person that you know diagnosed with breast cancer. How many women do you know that will be diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime? I'm also a member of the Relay for Life Maricopa leadership team. We raise funds to fight against breast cancer, against all cancers, excuse me. Many want to see Relay for Life fundraising dollars in action. Well, I'm happy to share with you that Sun Life Family Health Center will host its 4th annual A Crucial Catch Day, Your Fight Against Breast Cancer. A Crucial Catch Day, is a partnership between the American Cancer Society and the NFL that aims to provide resources, education, and funding to address the early detection and risk reduction of cancer. This event aims to provide women with free breast cancer education and screenings. There will be activities, refreshments, photo booth, and resources. This event is Tuesday, October 24th at Sun Life's Center for Women, 1864 East Florence Boulevard, Suite 2 in Casa Grande from 3 to 6 p.m. The event is open to the public with free screenings for every individual. For additional information related to any kind of cancer, you can contact the American Cancer Society helpline at 800-227-2345 or on the web at cancer.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Appreciate it. Terry Crane. Oh, speaking on the item, my apologies, got mixed in there. All right, Gabby. Come on up, Gabby. Would you push that button? The little green light's on? When it's green, you're good to go.
Good?
Very
Okay,
good.
thank you.
Awesome.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. The American Legion Auxiliary and the Parade Committee would like to invite the city members and to be our honorary guests at the first Veterans Parade, November 11. And we have a little bit more information that Ms. Tracy would like to share with you. I hope that you can join us. It's been a really great experience. We would like to honor our veterans in the community, so everybody is welcome. We are inviting the community groups to participate on the parade, and hope to see you there.
I'm a teacher. I can yell.
Just yell.
As Gabby had mentioned, the date of the parade is Saturday, November 11th, 2017. The parade starts at 9 a.m. and the parade route, we will be starting at Legacy Traditional School and ending at Leading Edge Academy. And there are registration forms available. Please register. Come march with us, have a float. The deadline to register is Friday, October 27th.
We would like to also invite all the veterans in the community to come and join a lunch and a small program that we are preparing with the students from different schools, and it's going to be after the parade at Leading Edge Academy. So please come join us. We would like to honor you on the day of Veterans Day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Janice Vitale?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. We'd like to invite you to our third annual Veterans Run on November 4th. That's the American Legion and the American Legion Auxiliary. We've been doing this for 3 years. It's a 5K or a 1-mile walk. We serve a pancake breakfast, and it starts at 8 o'clock in the morning at Copper Sky. And it's a $5 donation for the breakfast. It includes orange juice, sausage. It's a great day. We have lots of fun. We flip a lot of pancakes, so you're welcome. And if you need more information, you can find it on our website at the American Legion Auxiliary and website. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Janice. Appreciate it. John Lovelace. John, come on up.
Okay, I'm serve on the, Mr. Mayor and the City Council. I don't do this very often. I serve on the Salvation Army here in Maricopa. A lot of people don't realize there is a Salvation Army that has been here for, as far as I can tell, 28 years now. Predominantly what we are doing is serving to help people with utility bills, people that get into medical emergencies, financial difficulties of many sorts. We have a dispatch number that they can call, put in their application. We usually take care of 6, 8, 12 people a week. We get as many as 95 calls a week. One of our big fundraisers, in fact our only fundraiser, is the bell ringing. The money that we collect in Maricopa stays in Maricopa. I am looking for volunteers to ring the bell, and I have call my home at 520-350-1599. If somebody needs assistance, they can call dispatch at 520-705-6509. It will do you no good to call my house because I'm not part of dispatch. We do that to try to keep this as fair and equitable as possible. Last year we dispersed out over $50,000 in funds in Maricopa. We had more, but people didn't come for. We take care of ACA for global water, and we take care of SHARE for ED3, and the rest of it is money we have raised to help with utilities. We've also, last year, did 290 plus children for Christmas gifts. Each child got somewhere in the neighborhood of $75. We have several groups that help with us. One of them that's supposed to be on board again this year is Marines Toys for Tots, and we hope that that's going to be coming to fruition along with Okchen and a group of retirees from Casa Grande. Like I said, if anybody wants to do bell ringing. If there's somebody that's going to go to college and is needing time, because a lot of colleges are requiring people to have volunteer hours now for college. I have the certificates. You will get one. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Now, I have one last speaker card. I'm going to postpone that. Does anybody else like to come to the call to the public at this time?
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, fellow council members, and my call to the public is to my fellow Maricopans. You have a very important document that should either be on your kitchen table or in your mailbox. That is your ballot for the upcoming RTA vote. There's a lot of posting out there of misinformation, misperceptions, but I'm speaking to you as a neighbor and as a voter. This is extremely important for the city of Maricopa. In the election pamphlet that you got, there is some information missing. There are 2 projects that are in phase 1 that will have a direct positive impact in Maricopa. If we don't pass this, it's not the end of the world, but it means the end of any viable option in the immediate future for Maricopa to leverage money with ADOT, with Maricopa Association of Governments, with the GRIC, and with other entities in Pinal County and Maricopa County to improve transportation routes on 347 and also to bring us an east-west corridor, which is basically MCG Highway and Val Vista. It also is money for our transit system, and that's one of the criteria that we're going to need to support in the future and expand and improve if we want to continue to keep up with our growth, not to attract new growth, just to keep up with the growth we have now. In July, we set a milestone. We did 100 building permits for new single-family residences here. We haven't hit that milestone in a decade. It's not the norm, but it's something that's coming back. I love our city. It's vibrant. We've got a lot of people now that are choosing to live here. So please, if you don't have all your information, please contact one of us, Supervisor Anthony Smith from Pinal County. Read the stuff that's online. Please don't succumb to all of the misinformation and misperception. This is very important for our city, so I urge you to please, please vote one way or the other. I'm not telling you how to vote, but realize that this is very, very important for our city, so please consider that option and please put those ballots in. It's an all-mail-in vote. There are no polling places. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman.
Good evening. Back again. One thing that I failed to mention is that I have postcards that I left in the at the back counter and also in the lobby that has the date of the event and the address information available to anyone who needs it. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Appreciate it. Anyone else at this time want to come up and call the public? Nope. Nope. Green light?
Oh, okay. Thanks, kid. I just wanted to say thank you very much. I'm the teacher from Desert Vista, and I wanted to say thank you very much to Kazi for inviting us down. He gave his time and service to help with the ULI group and do urban planning with us up at Desert Vista. And then from that, we built a relationship with him. We're able to come down and see you guys do what you do in action, which is what my kids had to participate and do. So I thank you for opening your doors and letting us come and see the awesome work that you do. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you for coming.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Never done this before, so it's kind of exciting. I just wanted to come and say 3 things. First thing is I wanted to thank the Chamber of Commerce. The most recent event that we had that was actually a huge success, and thank you, Councilwoman Chapados, for being there at the mentor party. We had 20 RSVPs and 36 people showed up. So it was a huge turnout for people who wanted to support and mentor and offer their time and their resources towards our small businesses. So just want to say thank you for that. Thank you for the Chamber as well. And also want to just give a plug to the Biz Expo coming up this Saturday at the Chamber. So, and lastly, we are going to be promoting a art and entrepreneur. I see Judith in the audience. So Crystal, I believe it's Hoe, okay, thank you, is going to be premiering her new charcoal and art at our exhibit this Thursday. So if you can, come on out, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Quentin. Appreciate it. Anyone else at this time? If not, we'll go ahead and call up Judith.
Good evening, Mayor Price, Vice Mayor Brown, City Council, officials, and neighbors. I am composer Judith Lang-Zamont, and I'm joined tonight with colleagues, cartographer and conductor John Jansen, painters Susan Cameron, fashion designer Angelina Martin, and also waiting in the ether are choreographer Jaylan Gentilela and David Vargas, actor and theater professional. We are all passionate proponents of our own art form, but equally we have volunteered our services over the long term for the benefit of all the arts in Maricopa through Maricopa Arts Council. And we're all here tonight during National Arts and Humanities Month to present the city with a detailed documentation package for MAC's 9-month All Arts Expo, produced last season throughout our city. This is the documentation package, and I'll get to describing it in a moment. Maricopa Arts Council has the stated mission to empower the arts and artists of all types in Maricopa, and the city took a giant step forward in that direction through the Expo. MAC makes this presentation not just to commemorate the Expo's happenings, but to place in the city's hands a useful tool for detailing an exciting and rounded picture of Maricopa in the recruitment of new investment and highly sought new business. Why? Because any well-rounded city is one in which the arts flourish and where they are embedded, embraced, and supported. And because the artistic creative outlook on problem solving is universally understood to be an essential and positive element in designing the path forward. For MAC, it's never enough just to do the expected. The Expo amply bore this out in its scope and general excellence, in line with Mayor Price's topic for his State of the City address. MAC truly did overcome obstacles in mounting this Expo, particularly with the slate of Expo special events. These specials were almost all offered free, open to the public, of course, and were brand new types of arts experiences for Maricopa. They were 2 studio crawls, a performing arts gala, 5 different poetry slam events, a world music showcase, 2 silent reading parties, the Copa Shorts Film Fest, the Young Choreographers Competition. And in addition, MAC published a little book citing various perspectives on creativity and the approach for a creative life. These are a collection of quotations from many great minds across the ages. They include quotes from statesmen and politicians, scientists, philosophers, and artists of every kind. The book includes, among many other examples, notable words from people like Plato and Leonardo, onward to George Washington, Picasso, Claude Debussy, Martha Graham, Eleanor Roosevelt, and forward again to artists and entertainers of the present day like Milton Berle, Jim Carrey, the great French actress Jeanne Moreau, Cormac McCarthy, the writer, Woody Guthrie, and the most recent Nobel Prize winner in literature, Bob Dylan. Several of the specials return in the current season, and they're back by popular request. They start next week on the 27th at the library with the All Maricopa Poetry Slam and Kids Open Mic. And then they continue with November's Studio Crawl number 3 under the good guidance of Susan Cameron. Our presentation package contains a 90-page document with plenty of photos and a 70-minute video. Coming up shortly is a capsule version of that expo video, which will be posted online for everyone to see before the end of October. Why undertake something so bold and so daring? Because the arts not only illustrate and commemorate, but they go deeper to enliven our sensibilities and reveal the core of our humanity. Largely because of the expo's ambitious scope and its successful realization, MAC was recently awarded a 2018 grant by the Arizona Commission on the Arts. All the review panel's comments are included verbatim in this package, and I quote here just 2 of them. Number 1, what they are doing is valuable, impactful, and number 2, could serve as a model for small communities. Everyone can meet MAC in person at this weekend's Chamber of Commerce Biz Expo. Please come and visit our table and talk in detail with Angelina and with Susan. And what? Yay, you bet. And Maricopa Arts Council is now open for general membership. And a little angel told me that an enlightened Maricopa citizen is going to match all the dollars that come in through new memberships in October. Angelina will give some details.
Hello, Mayor Price and City Council. Thank you for letting us come and speak with you. I would like to encourage all of our fellow artists to join the Maricopa Arts Council. It's $40 for general membership, and you can email us at maricopa@gmail.com, or you can find us on Facebook at Maricopa Arts Council. And there are many perks. One of them is you get to exhibit at local galleries and participate in local arts festivals. Another is you receive marketing promotions on MAC's social media websites. And a third is that you get to acquire opportunities for artistic growth and business development with our partners. Like, for example, MCE, which is Maricopa Center for Entrepreneurship. So we look forward to all of the local artists here coming and joining us for the future. Thank you.
Mayor Price and City Council, we now invite you all to join us here to receive the Expo presentation package from Maricopa Arts Council.
Thank you.
All right, that completes the call to the public at this time, and we'll move on to the agenda. All right, council, we lost one of our council members. He'll be back here shortly. Council, we are at the approval for the minutes, 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, and 7.4. As you recall, we had to table 2 of the minutes from last time due to some errors, so they're all on your agenda at this time for a first and a second. Is there a motion at this time?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second for approval of the minutes. Any further discussion of those? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. At this time, we've reached 8.1 on the agenda, which is a public hearing. The Mayor and City Council shall hear public comments on a proposal for a street name change, case number ADDR 17-02, a request by the Desert Cedars Homeowners Association to change the name of Brittle Bush Lane to Desert Cedars Drive. Kazi?
Good evening.
You got your own cheering
Honorable
section,
Mayor.
Kazi. You should bring them with you everywhere.
Honorable Mayor, Member of Council.
I don't think I've ever seen Kazi blush before. Great job, you guys. That's really good. It really is.
Thank you. I want to mention this is a public hearing for, based on council-approved resolution 14-11, which is for a street name change policy that was enacted in 1914. Desert Cedars Homeowner Association is requesting to change the street name from Brittle Bush to Desert Cedars Driveway. This was a platting error that happened in I believe it's early 2005. Yeah, that's what I was waiting for. So this is a public hearing with resolution 1736, I believe, and the street name change at Desert Cedars subdivision. So we received an application from Mr. Mark Miller representing Desert Cedars HOA to change the street name from Brittle Bush Lane to Desert Cedars Drive due to an error in platting stage. That's when the pre-plat and final plat are done. What happened was there's 2 names for the same street. So I'll go ahead and point out the streets over there. One in purple was, that portion of the street is known as Desert Cedars, and the one in red is known as Brittle Bush. So unfortunately, this is the same street with 2 street name, and it also does not meet our standard for street naming protocol and also emergency and fire services. As you can see, this street, one of the good thing about changing the name is that none of the homes that are on this street are actually physically addressed to the street, so there's no impact. With that, Mayor, this case, the name change has been brought into the HOA board members meeting several times, and there have been no opposition. City has also posted this information in the newspaper as required by law, and we also posted it on the sign about the public hearing on the corner of both the street. With that, staff would be recommending approval if that's what the council desires. Thank you.
Council, do you have any questions of Kazi? Okay, this is a public hearing at this time. If anyone would like to approach the podium and speak to this item and this item only, you may do so at this time. Seeing no one, we will go ahead and close the public hearing at this time and move on to the rest of the agenda. As you probably seen, if you've read the rest of the agenda, I think that we get to that on consent for approval. So with that, we'll move to items 9.1 through 9.7 minus an official table. Do we need to do that separately and pull that out? So we're going to pull out 9.3 and then we'll officially table it. So can I have a motion to approve consent, please?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on consent minus item 9.3? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. That takes us to item 9.3. Is there a motion to table 9.3? Have a motion. Is there a second?
Support.
Have a second. Any further discussion on tabling? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries, so we'll table that for a future time. All right, that takes us to the regular city council meeting agenda on the items 10.1 through 10.6. This time we'll move through the agenda fairly quickly. First part is the mayor and city council shall discuss possible take action on reappointing one citizen to the Public Safety Personnel Retirement System Board. This is for Kathleen. I don't know that we actually need a presentation. We have one vacancy, and that vacancy is actually somebody who wishes to remain on the board. According to state statute, it says that the mayor shall appoint, but it's with consent of the governing body, so i.e. you, council. Will Large, who is currently a member, wishes to remain on that, as you saw in your documentation, and so I would just go ahead and nominate and move to approve Will Large.
Second.
So we have a second. Is there any further discussion on that item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And that takes us to item 10.2, the Mayor and City Council to discuss and appoint a returning of the new youth council members for the 2017-2018 term. Heather, take it away.
Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, tonight I present you part of the applicants for the 2017-2018 Maricopa Youth Council. 11 of the applicants this year are returning. They've recommitted to serve as youth council representatives for another year, which I appreciate. And we have one new applicant who unfortunately is very ill tonight and could not make it. Some successes that we've had in the past, we've held 2 youth town halls, and we're excited to host our 3rd annual youth town hall. Have some topics brainstorming. We are looking to volunteer at all of the city-sponsored community events and working on building those mentorship opportunities with City Council. So I guess tonight I suggest that we just appoint all 12 applicants, and then at our first official meeting, they will choose a mentor, and I will work with Sarah Delgadillo to work with you guys this term.
Perfect. Any questions, council, for Heather and the youth council? Yes, Councilmember Chapdos.
If approved, when is their first meeting?
Next week,
Okay.
October 24th.
Okay, and will it be how often a month, which Tuesday?
We do the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of the month.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Wade.
Can I just speak in support of this group here? During the National League of Cities and Towns, the council was there representing Maricopa and represented Maricopa very, very well. And I was really proud to be a part of the contingency that was there with you guys. So I support you 100%. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Any further discussion on this? Councilwoman
Just had
Gussie.
a question. How many schools are involved?
We have, let me pull out my packet that I sent. I just don't want to give misinformation. We have Desert Vista. We have Sequoia Pathway Academy. We have Arizona Connections Academy, Maricopa High School, and Hope. Hope, is that the full name of it? So lots.
Thank you. Excellent.
Any additional questions on this suggestion? With that, can we have a motion to approve, please?
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Congratulations, guys.
you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate all your work.
Thank you.
This takes us to item 10.3. The Mayor and City Council share her presentation on, and recommendations from the Arts Task Force on adopting an arts on display policy and establishing a standing arts committee. So this is for discussion and action, and I think Councilwoman Chapados is presenting as she has been the liaison to this committee.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, fellow council members. This is the culmination of several months' work. We're here before you tonight to give you our recommendations. We were originally charged with 2 tasks: to develop an arts display policy for public facilities, and also to identify components of a comprehensive municipal arts program. I'd like to recognize the people that participated in this task force, several of which are here tonight. Ms. Dorothy Charles from the Maricopa Historical Society, John Jansen, former MAC board member and also leader of the Maricopa Chorus, Miss Angelina Martin, who is a costume and textile designer and also has a Master's of Humanities in Visual Arts and is one of the newest members to the MAC board. Cynthia Portray, a textile and weaving artist and also been very involved in what was formerly known as Art on the Veranda, now it's the Maricopa Arts Festival. Ms. Skylar Sharp, who is a culinary and visual artist, and Mr. Paul Shirk from the Maricopa Historical Society. As you mentioned, Mayor, I served as the council liaison, and Mr. Eric Server, our library manager, was the staff liaison. Now, this is not your typical presentation. We met In March, April, July, and September, in the evening, we had a deep dive into the 2 tasks that we were tasked with. So the first thing we looked at is the arts display policy. This is something that currently exists, but what we did is we fine-tuned it. That was one of the things that we're bringing forward tonight. It has been reviewed by our legal department. We've made some tweaks to it. It would apply mostly for things that Maricopa Arts Council had done in the past in terms of the gallery here at City Hall. The expectation is that this would now become a responsibility of, if council does so approve, the Standing Arts Committee to do the curation, selection, solicitation process, and also to help curate and put the display up. We also want to maintain the ability to do art displays in other public facilities, specifically maybe Copper Sky, and also continue at the library. We felt that because those were usually featured artisans, that would probably be best to be coordinated through that particular building manager and the artisan themselves. One of the things that we did also build into it was very different components. We felt that we had to have an initial policy, as what is the city's policy on how art is displayed, how is it solicited, how is it judged. We also wanted to make sure that the artisans realize that it is an at-risk arrangement, that any art that's hanging here, that they are responsible for, that we're not going to insure it, those kind of things. We also wanted to make it available for possible sale, so we talked long and hard about having artisans be able to offer their artworks up for sale. Part of what that is going to entail with the application process would be them submitting an art inventory sheet, which then could be very easily used as a catalog, if you will, of what art is available with the prices and everything else. We also wanted to make sure that we set a time limit on when these art displays were going to happen in the city. And at the end of that, we have in writing that the art was removed, it was returned to the original owner, et cetera, et cetera. We have also built into it a very specific opportunity for the city to make some revenue. We have offered an example of anything that's sold that is on display in a city facility, the city would receive 15% commission. So, and that would be between the artisan and the city. So that is something that you had as part of your review, the materials to review tonight. As I say, it's already been vetted through legal. What we would ask now is that if council has the direction to use that policy and those components that we've created, that we send it back to the proper departments for the final tweaking and visual. It is our hope that that can be online and a fillable online form, as well as be able to be downloaded, printed out, and returned by a hard copy. We're trying to make this as paperless as we can, and also facilitate it so the artist can submit digital images of whatever artwork is going to be offered for display, as well as any of those that are also for sale. Okay. The next thing we talked about was what are the major components of a municipal arts program. And what we did was we started with a comparison of what some of our other sister cities are doing. We looked at Casa Grande, Florence, Phoenix, Tempe. They all have very robust arts programs and municipal support in varying degrees. They're also a lot older than Maricopa. But one of the things that came to the forefront very early on is that we have an enormous amount of talent within our own city limits. So one of the first things that we did is we created an art asset inventory, and it celebrates multiple art forms, not only artists, visual, performing, interpretive, dance, culinary, you name it. We said that's important to our city. We also looked at our ability and our options for spaces to display art or to have performances. There are several in the city that exist, but there is a tremendous need and a lack of other options that may be more affordable, more accessible. Scheduling conflicts are sometimes a challenge. We looked at the importance of having those integrated into our future planning. We also talked at length about the value of partnership and collaboration because we have so many groups, specifically groups like the Maricopa Arts Council, Maricopa Chorus, Historical Society. Those are very important for us to make sure that we maintain those relationships and that we leverage and maximize those partnerships in the future. We also talked about the need for ongoing funding options, sources, and also grants. We've had multiple conversations with not only this task force, but with some of our other committees about the challenges for funding. People want to do a lot of great things, and there's just not a lot of money to go around to do those. So it's very important that we are supportive in terms of helping them with grants if we need to serve as a fiscal agent, if we can identify sources for grants, if there's a collaboration. As you heard tonight, MAC was recently awarded a grant by the Arizona Commission on the Arts. So those things are very important. We also talked at length about marketing, publicity, and advertising. One of the things that the task force members felt strongly about is the need to make people aware of not only the art and the talent that is here, but how to access it and how to possibly purchase it to expand your inventory and appreciation for the arts. So one of the things we talked about was being able to have ongoing classes and instruction, and here's where Copper Sky comes into play. If there's any artisan out there or anybody who has a talent that they want to share, that's an opportunity for you to give that service, teach that service directly to our constituents. We also want to make sure that we partner with people like CAC to make sure that they have those opportunities available to our constituents. There's a lot of people that have a lot of great ideas, and we just want to make sure that we leverage and maximize those opportunities for our citizens to become exposed to that. And we're talking all ages. So there's a lot of different things that we can do for youth, adults, seniors, retired people, whatever. We also talked about the correlation and the importance of arts in our overall city's image. It's important for our branding and marketing. One of the things that the Arts Task Force and other committees that I've been involved with feel is important is we need an identity as a city. We don't have a welcoming marquee. We have a green sign from ADOT on the side of the road that tells you you're now in Maricopa, that was established in 1857, and what our elevation is. We would like to see some effort put forth to see what we can do to leverage those options, because we have 4 entrance points and exit points at the city. We'd like to be able to have some visual marquees that actually celebrate that you are now in Maricopa. We talked about it as an economic driver and the importance to our economy. I think there's no doubt that when we have artisans and displays and concerts and special events and fundraisers and that kind of thing, it exposes people to a very degree of art and art appreciation. So we want to make sure that we tie that into our economic development strategies and approaches. We talked about the importance of art in planning and design. A lot of the things that we see day to day we take for granted, but they are the visual elements and the identity of our city. From the HOA marquees, everyone's different, to how the facades of the buildings look, to our street signs, to our street lights, to everything in between. We talked about art as an education and lifelong learning process. You can start finger painting as a toddler and an infant, and you can do it right through, till your very last day on the planet. So it's important that we make sure everything that we do has the opportunity to be experienced at any stage during life. It's also very important to our history and heritage. One of the things that we've worked closely with as a council is the Historical Society is still searching for a museum to display all these artifacts that will celebrate our history and will actually visually display our proud history and prosperous future. And we are making history as we talk, so there's all kinds of new things that will be able to be displayed as well. And finally, we talked about the importance of art as a quality of life issue. There are people that are choosing Maricopa as their place to work, live, shop, play, whatever it happens to be. Art is an important part of that, whether it's visual or whether it's subtle, whether it's interpretive, whether it's psychological, it plays an important part here. We felt that art overall is an inclusive characteristic of any thriving, prosperous city, region, people, or place. So what does that mean? So we came up with some adjectives that we feel are important for any art program that the city adopts. It needs to be inclusive for all people of all ages and all spaces. It needs to be collaborative. Again, the importance of partnerships. It needs to be diverse because everybody around the table brought different ideas from different experiences and in different walks of life. It needs to be entrepreneurial and economic. It's important to our continued growth. It's interactive. There's got to be things that you can see, hear, or that you can actually touch and do. It's got to be public with activities and programs that will afford our constituents and our residents and our visitors an opportunity to enjoy art to the fullest. It's an intrinsic amenity. It's something that actually exists automatically in a community. It's our aesthetics. From the city seal, which if anybody was here for the, 6-8 months that we spent on that, you know that it's important when you have a visual element that identifies your city. It's creativity and its expression. We've seen all kinds of opportunities of how people express artistic. I mean, and even though it's a nuisance and we do make effort to abate it, I've seen some magnificent graffiti murals that are just unbelievable. So it's all different kinds of things. It's also all of our practitioners, whatever they may be and whatever they may do. It's overall a holistic sensory experience, and it's a connection to each other and to our city. So visually, these are all, not all, but some of the things that art is to a city of Maricopa. So that leads us to the question before us tonight. It's a key quality of our life, and it's all of these things simultaneously, individually, in combinations, whatever. But it's important to who we are, who we've been, and who we're going to be. So the question before us tonight is, should Maricopa City Council establish a standing arts committee? Our committee is bringing forth 7 recommendations for your consideration. Number 1 is adopt the arts on display policy forms and documents. Number 2 is explore options for a citywide arts event calendar. You all are acutely aware of some of the challenges we have of where people find their information. Not everybody has electronic savviness or access to computers. Not everybody gets on social media. We have a number of different needs and a number of different outlets in which to get that information. But the one thing that we don't have is, where can I go to find out what's happening today? You can go to 5 or 10 places. So we explored the option of possibly having a citywide arts and event calendar. And right now, we're really not advocating one way or the other who would be responsible for that or how it would work. It could actually be an independent business project and a revenue generator for somebody. But it would be nice, so not only from the public's perspective of where can I find out what's going on, but from our practitioners and our arts groups, I don't want to step on anybody else's toes. How many times have you had a weekend come up where it's a matter of how I have to be at 4 places at once? How do I find out and how do I prioritize? And there are several events that are established in the city that we want to make sure we maintain the integrity of those as a standalone event. The Seeds of Change Gala, the Spring Historical Society Symposium, Art on the Veranda, or as it is now going to be known, the Maricopa Arts Festival, some of the concerts and performances that we have here. So that was very important. We also want to make sure that we make every effort to support and promote Maricopa's artists and art organizations. We wanted to continue to identify and provide art-related events, programs, and activities, and that can be a number of different partners that we do that with. We want to make sure that we provide assistance for all forms and types of funding options to support the arts in Maricopa. We also think that it would be a good idea to apply the shop local principles to the Maricopa arts community and to Maricopa artists. And finally, we are recommending that the city consider strongly creating a standing arts committee. What we're asking council to consider tonight to bring back to the November 7th regular council meeting session is, if there's any further action or direction, we would like that to come back to us now. We would like you to recommend approval of the arts display policy. We would like to have some specific guidelines developed for if we do decide to do a standing committee, what are those guiding principles that we've done for every other committee that we've established. And then we would like to take action, if council approves, to change the code to add a standing arts committee to the city of Maricopa. With that, gentlemen and ladies, I will entertain any questions.
Council, questions? This time. Nope. No one? Yes, Vice Mayor.
I would just like to say that was an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
And if, for those who have never dreamed of anything artistic, you have overwhelmed us.
Thank you. That was my goal. I did not do it alone, though. I had some very creative people, and the folks that are here tonight, Angelina, John, Dorothy, please stand up.
Leonardo would appreciate it. Yes. Excellent. Leonardo would be proud of you.
Yes, Councilwoman Gussie.
I just wanted to make a comment at the last Hispanic Chamber event, the last Hispanic cultural event that we had through the city. Judith was there. Thank you for coming. And it was great to see her look at the artists that were there, because these were young people that had never had a show in their life. So they made comments about how cool it was to have you all there looking at their art and participating. So that was really neat to see. Thank you.
Thank you. So council, what our hope is that any action that we take at the November 7th meeting would be to hopefully establish the Permanent Arts Committee. What we'd like to suggest is that we use the months of November and December as kind of a recruitment period. So we make sure that we can advertise what the guidelines of that committee would be, and then hopefully, if we can, do some appointments in January. That's our proposed timeline.
Perfect. Go ahead, Councilmember Manfredi.
So right now, we're voting on creating the committee?
Well, I think the question is do we want to move forward with bringing that back? Is that correct, City Manager? So the presentation, all the culmination of work is, these are the proposals before us. There's a few of them, so we need to break those out, but ultimately, does anyone have any qualms with moving forward with potentially creating a standing arts committee? I think you guys have done an excellent job, and this is exactly what we wanted to see when we did this proclamation all those years ago, seemingly years ago. But that's the point of it, is you moved, yeah, right? You moved along this process so that you can get to a point like this, and that's exactly the point. So again, well done. Thank you very much. Council, if we can get a motion to approve moving this forward to the next council meeting with those recommendations and stipulations, that would be fabulous.
I'll move with that, Mr. Mayor.
I have a motion. Is there a second? And a second. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Congratulations. Well done. Thank you. At this time, we'd like to call up, it's item 10.4, the Mayor and City Council hear a presentation from Tori Anderson with Against Abuse regarding the services they provide. So, Tori?
Yeah.
Tori, is yours going to be as colorful a PDF?
I can't top that.
Well, it's purple.
I'm just teasing.
I mean, I'll even do a song and dance if you
Yes,
want
let's
to wake
go.
everybody up. Mayor Price, Vice Mayor Brown, and Council, thank you for allowing Against Abuse to come and present today. As a board member and someone who has been involved in the domestic violence, sexual assault issues for many, many years, it wasn't very long ago where we didn't talk about it. And so I want to thank you for allowing us to come and present and share all of the services that we offer. As Against Abuse has been in Pinal County for over 40 years. And we really pride ourselves on meeting the needs of our community and the growing needs of our environment and the world around us. And so, and looking back the timeline, I was amazed myself as to how much we have progressed and had to change the way our thinking is because our community has actually changed. So thank you for being forward-thinking and allowing us to present. The song and dance will come later. So, but I also wanted to thank City Manager for letting us get on the agenda because we have grown so much and there's so many services that we offer that I don't even think our community members and our council is aware of them. So with that, I am going to have our Deputy Director, Maria Elena Ochoa, present because she is the guru and the expert. She's got many, many years with the governor's office over the years and working with several different agencies. So I learn from her every day, and she is a visionary, and Against Abuse is extremely fortunate to have her to help us see the vision and where we want our domestic violence and sexual assault programs to go. So I'm going to have Maria Elena come up. All right, take it away. She's the song and dance.
Thank you for those very, very kind words. And I also reiterate, I say thank you to allow us to be on the agenda today. So
how do we change this?
Oh, there should be a little.
The cue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go.
Oh, okay. I wondered how that.
Okay, so basically our mission is to provide services and support and education to all who experience the effects of family dysfunction and or violence, past and present. And this is the timeline that Tori was talking about. We began in 1981 as a safe home network where we were providing services to people, where people volunteered their own homes and people who were needing services would go to those homes. And then we also started doing community-based services at that time. In 1986, we built our very first La Casa de Paz shelter in Casa Grande. In 1990, we started a thrift store, and the reason that we started the thrift store is we were finding that the people that were in the shelter had a lot of need, either immediate, whether it be clothing, sundries, various needs, right down to their shoes and socks, to even if once they were in our program and they transitioned to, let's say, a transitional housing or a different home, we would help them. They would be able to get things from the thrift store free of charge. In 2002, we established an animal safe home network, and basically what that's about is there are members of the community who are animal lovers. A lot of times, people who are victims are not going to leave their perpetrator because they don't want to leave their pet behind. Their perpetrator has threatened to do really terrible things to that pet or those pets. So that means that victims stay with their abusers. So in this way, a person can come to a safe place, whether it be the shelter or an alternate living environment, and we have people who foster their pets in a pet-loving home. In 2004, we created Las Casitas, which was transitional housing, and what that amounts to is sometimes people don't want to, they're not going back to their home where their abuser is not really an option, but they maybe want to transition into their own home. They might not be 100% ready to do that. So we have what's known as transitional housing, where we then provide a variety of supports, financial, help them get a job, those kinds of things, so that they can then sustain themselves on their own. In 2009, we established La Paloma Center, and that doesn't really explain to you what it is, but we provide supervised, court-ordered, supervised visitation and safe exchange for people who are, have experienced domestic violence and have been divorced. Many times across this country, when people go to exchange their kids in a divorce situation, the perpetrator may even sometimes kill the victim. And so what we do is we provide a safe place for people to exchange their children. Of course.
So I just want to add in the La Paloma Center, which I also serve on that advisory committee. We also work with our probation officers to actually reunite families, because a lot of times if the parents have been in prison for years, they probably haven't even met their children. And so we pride ourselves on working with the prisons and making sure that families are able to reunite and able to get to know each other over a matter of months. And it's supervised visitation, which means they're taught how to actually interact with a child. There's no videos, no movies. They have to be doing something active so they can actually interact with their children. So I'm very proud that we've been able to expand and be able to help families stay strong. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump.
Oh, no, not a problem. We're a great team. In 2012, we opened up a site in San Manuel, the Safe Journey House. And basically what that amounts to, it's a community-based setting where people who do not need shelter per se, but need other supports, can get them in that part of the state or that part of Pinal County. And then in 2014, you all probably already know this, La Casa de Paz, our shelter in Maricopa, the city of Maricopa, opened. So we're very, very excited about that. It's a 32-bed shelter. I'll talk to you a little bit more about that a little bit later. And then in 2016, October actually of 2016, we received funding from the governor's office to provide sexual assault services. So this, even though and the numbers vary depending upon who you're talking to, 80, 90, 100% of people in the shelters who've experienced domestic violence have also experienced sexual assault. So we're very excited about expanding the dimension and the scope of the services that we're providing. So it's not just the shelter services or the home and community-based services, but also sexual assault services. Just a few figures. In fiscal year 16-17, and I broke it down. Usually I don't break down these statistics, but because I felt that you all probably would want to know what occurs in the city of Maricopa. So we got a variety of calls For information and referral, we got a total of 12,020 calls, 954 of them from the city of Maricopa. We got a little over 1,000 crisis calls, 546 of those being from the city of Maricopa. And we got almost 1,500 requests for shelter, 748 of them being from the city of Maricopa. So La Casa, our shelter in Casa Grande, right now we have a 24-bed shelter, served in fiscal year 16-17, served 150 women, 87 children. We provided 6,972 bed nights, and the average stay was 33 nights. In La Casa Maricopa, our 32-bed facility, we served 244 women, 187 children, provided 9,389 bed nights, and the average stay was 23 bed nights. And I guess what I'd like to also point out is the large number of children, because a lot of times people will think of a shelter and they think of women, or the, mostly, but we really get a large number of children that also, it's an opportunity for us to be able to provide them some services and get them off to a better path, better start.
Hold on a second. Councilmember Chapados, question?
I'd just like to know, with the statistics you just shared with us, with the number of calls across the board for calls in Maricopa, how does that correlate to this slide? I mean, of all those calls, how many of those equated to, okay, we've got a bed for you, come on in?
Well, so out of all those calls, there's a broad array of services that we can provide for people. And so in this particular case, 244 of those calls resulted in women coming to the shelter with their 187 children. Now, since we got more calls than that, sometimes the calls result in us providing home, either community-based services, so services that are not shelter. They can come to our offices and we can provide a variety of services and supports. We can provide mobile services where we can go to them. So there's a variety of other services. So it's not just shelter, so it's not necessarily a direct correlation between a phone call and then shelter services.
Do you find yourself in a position then where you actually have to turn people away because you don't have the capacity?
It's really fascinating that you asked that question, because it's our philosophy not to turn people away.
Okay.
That being said, once they're in our shelter, and even though we have a 32-bed capacity, let's just talk about the city of Maricopa. If, for example, they have different or other needs, or shelter maybe isn't necessarily exactly what they need, then we can make referrals either to our own other services or to other organizations. They might need actually behavioral health services with more urgency and immediacy than they might need shelter services for domestic violence. So it's a referral mechanism, if you will, just to make sure that they're getting the right services and supports that they need based on those calls.
Okay. But your goal with a woman in crisis is to find them some type of shelter? Okay.
If her crisis requires shelter, sometimes the crisis involves the courts. Sometimes it's a T visa or a U visa. So it just depends.
Specifically if they do need shelter.
If they do
Your
need
goal is to
shelter,
find them
we
shelter.
determine that, and then yes, absolutely.
But sometimes they also just need to get out of state, and maybe they have family in California or back east, or they have family, and so they will call our crisis line and we will help facilitate that need. So it's not necessarily just coming into shelter, but because we are part of the national network. So if somebody says, I need to leave and I have this place that I can go, we will help facilitate that and help even with the fees and making sure that happens, that transition happens safely. So.
Councilmember Wade.
In Maricopa, would you identify, or could you identify some areas where there might be shortfalls, and what you were able to do to try to, remediate that issue? And if there was somewhere else they needed to go, but you couldn't provide them with that service because either it wasn't there, or they were full, or there was a cost issue associated with this, how do you handle that in a situation like that?
So I'm not clear on the question. But
Well, for instance, you've got if you go back to this slide, it was 500 or 740 calls and 240 women that actually went to shelter.
Correct.
Of those shortfalls, were there issues where you actually couldn't help that person, you couldn't do anything to support them, or have you always been able to find a solution to a problem that exists?
I think the one, and Marilena can jump in here, but sometimes if it's not directly related to domestic violence or sexual assault, let's say someone's having a bad day, or maybe some other situation happened, that won't necessarily facilitate coming into shelter, but we will certainly put them in touch with the agency that would provide that service. Does that make sense?
It does.
So, obviously, if you're asking what hinders us from doing our job, maybe, is money. Because it does cost. And the other thing is enough facilitators, enough counselors, enough support team, support staff. So that's a constant need, is to hire more people.
Okay.
I would say that if there was probably a single item that would be, let's call it a gap, would be the need for additional staff to provide those services and supports, whether they be in a shelter, whether they be in a community-based setting, whether they, so regardless of what the services are across the scope of services that we provide, we need more staff.
And I've been to your shelter and I've met your staff, and they're very dedicated to what they do, so I can certainly understand that sometimes, it gets to a point where they may need to go do something else, but you seem to be able to recruit pretty good people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for saying that.
Councilwoman Gussie.
Out of the 244 women, I remember asking you this question in the past. Do you have any idea how many of them were veterans or the perpetrators were vets?
Yeah.
We serve people that are veterans, yes. We don't have a specific or separate distinct service for veterans, but there are people in our shelters and in our services, our community-based services, that are veterans and have been veterans, so yes.
And I know, Councilman Gussie, you asked what our numbers are of veterans, and that's something that the Board of Directors is actually looking at. How do we track that? Because a lot of times when clients come in, they are traumatized. And so it's sometimes hard to gather some of that information. But it's something that, as a board member, we have certainly talked about, and trying to making sure we can kind of track those numbers and see if there's other agencies that we can partner with for the veteran services.
Now, in Pinal County, do you know if there's a women's shelter for veterans? In Maricopa County, there's Mary Ellen's Place.
Right.
And Mana House is for all men, and no women are allowed there. So do you know of any shelters in Pinal County that service women vets?
I do know that CAFA, our sister agency located in Apache Junction, in a very similar way does serve veterans as well.
But not a separate
women.
I don't think it's a separate facility.
No, it's not separate.
Okay.
It's very similar to the way we do it.
All right, and you said that you're exploring ways to better ascertain or get those numbers as far as figures?
Just to track it and find out if there's, a big thing that we pride ourselves in is trying to create partnerships and making sure that, probably another issue for stumbling blocks, so to speak, is making sure that the net is secure and making sure that when somebody is referred to another partnering agency, or maybe they need to go to another city or another state, part of that is just making sure that that netting and that foundation is there, so that someone doesn't fall through the cracks, because it's really easy in that transition period to not, maybe someone didn't answer the phone the one time you wanted to call the veteran service or whatever it may be. So part of that is just making sure that there is a plan in place, and that we're working with those agencies, and that the client, the victim, is able follow up on some of those suggestions.
Just by hearing the questions, I'm going to make sure in the next annual report, or maybe even to this current annual report, I will be inclusive of those numbers that reflect the number of veterans that we have served. So thank you for that feedback.
Thank you.
And for your questions.
Yes, go ahead, Councilwoman.
My question relates to, in hearing your discussion about how your organization is performing programs to help against abuse and sexual assault. Have we worked in partnership with our Chief Stahl's Family Advocate Center in order to make the best use of resources in those areas?
So we have had conversations with Mary Witkowski. So this is a brand new program for us. So I know so we just barely got the award in October. And
For sexual assault.
For sexual assault.
Yeah.
That was the question, right? About sexual
Just
assault?
how do we partner with
Right.
our current?
Right, I got it. So we do have, I know that I myself have had a couple of conversations informally with Chief Stahl, just kind of letting him know that we're definitely going to be wanting to figure out how we want to coordinate these efforts now that we have these sexual assault services. But they're brand new, and I probably shouldn't have said anything about them because there's not, we just barely have a director, we just barely got an advocate. What we're finding, as I mentioned, that there are so many people that are in our services that have experienced sexual assault services. And our next steps, in fact, even just today, we had a conversation with our sister agency in Apache Junction, CAFA, so that we can better coordinate those sexual assault efforts throughout Pinal County. And our next plan of action would be to set up a conversation with Mary Witkowski and
But yes, Councilman Smith, yes, we have met with Chief Stahl and the Victims Assistance Program. Definitely that's an important, and it's an ongoing relationship. So, and it's an ever-changing, evolving relationship. So absolutely that is an important partner in the services that are provided in Maricopa. So to answer your question, yes.
And we're very, very, very excited about that Family Advocacy Center as soon as it opens up.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure the conversations were being held so that resources are just so hard to come by, and we can make the best of both units working together. That's the best plan for sure.
Absolutely, and as Tori mentioned, we have a strong history of collaboration with community partners, and obviously in this case, we definitely want to remain, make that a constant, and we will be partnering with those people that will make those services more like whole person services for the people that we serve.
Well, and I also hope, Councilman Smith, that the Victims Assistance Program also reaches out to Against Abuse so that we're not duplicating services, we're not duplicating funds. Certainly if there's a service that we can provide as Against Abuse, that's a local agency. So it would be the best use of funds. So I think it's an ongoing system. But yes, it's definitely working.
Okay, completely agree. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this particular slide?
Except our bushes have gotten really big now.
Yes.
So.
Okay, so sometimes a shelter, people seeking shelter or safety in a place away from their abuser or their perpetrator, sometimes a shelter isn't really the right place for them. And so we actually have funding. It's not a lot of funding, but it is some funding where we can address the need by having people stay in either the mainstay suites or the Super 8 motel. And this past fiscal year, we provided services to 52 men, women, and children, 579 bed nights, and the average stay in those settings are about 10 nights. As I mentioned earlier, we have transitional housing services, and we have 14 sites in Casa Grande, and through that service, we provided 11,193 bed nights.
And we are looking for transitional homes here in the city of Maricopa. So that's another piece to this puzzle.
Remember when I talked about the supervised visitation and safe exchange, our La Paloma program? We provided 4,045 hours of supervised visitation and 1,108 hours of safe exchange services. So that means people don't have to go in the parking lot of the McDonald's or even the parking lot of the police station, because even some people feel, oh, well, let's do the exchange at the parking lot in front of the police station. But the bottom line is that the police are not there in the parking lot. They're somewhere else, they're in the office, and so this is a very safe and supervised option for people.
Who's the responsible party for this? Is it your organization, or is it CPS, DPS, CPS? Who sets up those visitations and monitors the visitation?
Most of the time, they're court-ordered. We do have some supervised visitation from the DCS folks. So, but most of the time they are court-ordered.
And the court orders you to provide the services?
The court will assign to the individual to find a provider, and many times they will suggest us. So.
Okay, thank you.
But we also work with the probation officers when we have our meeting. So that might be, they could recommend the facility as a place for the family to meet. So sometimes it's self-imposed, it's not necessarily court-ordered.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. And if that does happen, it's a sliding scale, because it's all about making sure the kids are safe and that the families are being healthy. So we do make every effort to make sure that services are provided.
So we have community-based services for when survivors don't need emergency shelter services. And this past fiscal year, we provided 3,144.5 hours for 222 women, 19 men, and 390 children. In those services, there was 2,359 hours of lay legal advocacy, 456.5 hours of educational services and supports, and 329 hours of case management. Some of the educational groups that we provide for folks are Domestic Violence 101, what domestic violence is, what it looks like. We're going to be adding Sexual Violence 101 to that curriculum. Self-esteem, communication, dealing with conflict, dealing with anger, coping with depression and anxiety, parenting, healing. Those are very obvious. We do more, but these are our core. We also provide lay legal advocacy. We're not lawyers, but we do guide people through the legal process without actually representing them. So we help them complete their legal documents like their divorce, child support, orders of protection, T visas, U visas, self-petitions, immigration forms, and then we also help them with court preparation and court accompaniment. Where are we without our volunteers? So this past fiscal year, we had 7,016 volunteer hours, and where we get that help is at our thrift store, our Animal Safe Home Network. We had 3,840 of those 7,000 hours in our Animal Safe Home Network. Volunteers help us with outreach, our booths, administrative work, handiwork, translation of documents, and even childcare.
And the gala, of course.
Well, and that's this. Other significant volunteers. We have our board members, and I'm going to tell you, we've got some very, very passionate board members. We have the Taste of Casa Grande committee members, and then, of course, our Seeds of Change Gala committee members. And if any of you are in the audience, thank you very much. Yes, thank you. Again, I think I explained the Animal Safe Home Network. We literally get, at least once a week, we get calls from somebody who has pets and they need some help with their pets. And that's a lot. So those were our outputs. And now I want to share with you some of our outcomes. Because of the services that we provide, 86% of people know more about their available services. 87% know more about domestic violence. 91% feel believed and not alone. 85% they feel able to regain control over their lives. 92% can plan for their safety, and 90% feel safer. And we get this information from surveys, satisfaction surveys. Things that help support what we do, the Taste of Casa Grande, we have a child abuse prevention conference, we have a child abuse prevention 5K, we have a Love Your Body Day, Seeds of Change Gala, and the Pinal County Domestic Violence Conference. And we're members of that coalition. And so over the course of time, and I think there's probably more on this list, but I've got 2 slides worth of those folks here in the city of Maricopa that partner with us. Obviously the city of Maricopa. They help us with a lot of things: training, donations, good quality clothing, furniture, household, clean supplies, linens, bedding. The Maricopa Unified School District for enrollment, food items, the Maricopa Police Department, Fire Department, OCCHIN, Impact, the Behavioral Health Organization, the First Baptist Church, Pastor Jim Johnson provides food, hygiene items. La Vida Salon provides haircuts and styling. Snooze You Lose Boutique provides outfits, jackets, undergarments, and this is really important when people need to go for interviews. Jennifer Flowers does Beauty for Ashes, does some singing, some clothing, empowerment activities, helps with resume writing, Dress for Success, Spa Day. Mary Kay does a spa day. Obviously Pinal County. Again, the police department with the Maricopa Victim Services. We've got a number of faith-based organizations. The Mormon Church, they helped us with some garden beds and a clothing drive, 10 truckloads of clothing. Lions Club, building shelving for us, garden beds, a water system, irrigation, canopy, dirt. The Sun Chasers, they've put up swing sets, they've provided pillows, mattress covers, fire tablets for the children, computers and IT services, and they're just continuously donating time and what we need at the shelter. The Province Subdivision, continuous donations, clothing, household items, housewarming gifts for the ladies, knitted hats, blankets, and booties. Fry's Food Store, we get the bakery, pies, and cakes. The Maricopa Food Bank for food, meat, dairy, fruits, veggies, bread. And Pastor Ben, he's always accessible to members for volunteer needs such as painting, facility repairs. And as I said, my apologies if I've missed anybody here, but I'm sure that there are actually more that need to be on this list. But at least this is a preliminary list so that you get a sense of the kind of partnerships that we have. And that
Awesome job.
transitions us to Q&A if there is any.
Yes.
I do want to say that this, even though we presented this to the council members last week, we have a pile of them out there for anyone else who might be interested in this document. It has many of the same figures and a little statement from our executive director, Pat Griffin.
Councilman Wig.
I notice you don't have any financial literacy, financial capability courses that you offer or activities that you offer. And normally, that's one of the main things that people fight about is their finances, you know, and that's how it gets started in some cases.
We actually do. It isn't on the list. Those are kind of the core that I had listed, but we actually have an entire curriculum specifically focused on financial planning,
It's one of your
budgeting and things like that.
It's Credit Smart.
Bank.
Say again?
Great Western Bank works with doing classes. Wells Fargo will come in and just educate the women, so we do have those.
That's great. That's great. Thank you.
Very good point, though. Yeah.
Any other questions at this time, Council?
Yeah.
Yes, Councilman Manfredi.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Great job. Question for you. What happens to the kids when they're there for 23 days? And I know you said enrollment in part of the MUSD stuff, but they're actually enrolled in the schools and then attend the elementary or the high school that's closest, correct?
Yes, our staff make sure that whether it's at the beginning of the year or whatever point in time they're in, that's part of our case management service delivery, where we make sure that the kids are enrolled in school.
Perfect.
On top of which, they also have doctor's appointments and dental appointments and things like that. So again, we have like what we call a whole person approach. So yes, their educational needs are addressed, and their medical, dental, all of those things.
Well, and counseling needs, because trauma-informed care, so we meet the client or the victim at where they're at and try to help them work through the trauma side of it. So it's not just come in and spend the night and get a meal and here's some clean clothes.
Right.
It actually is a process. And that's why it's important that we have the community partnerships. But the children, it's pretty seamless to get them enrolled in school and to make sure that their day is as normal as possible.
Right.
And then, Copper Sky is a great resource since we are pretty close, and we do have a van now that we're able to take the kids to. I think they almost lived at Copper Sky this summer, and the pool. So, and again, that's a great partnership with the city to allow us to be able to do that. So we keep the kids extremely busy.
Right.
And then we also have teachers that will come in and do homework help if necessary, or will come to the shelter if it's not safe for the children to go to school.
Perfect.
We have services teachers that will volunteer and come in and actually almost like homeschool or help them through with whatever they need.
Thank you. That was one of my main concerns, is the continuity of the children's lives, to make sure they keep going. Great.
Yeah.
And also, don't forget, we also have the Comet service here and dial-a-ride services here, so in case, God forbid, they need rides.
We use it, believe me. Yeah, it's the city has come a long way in services that are provided, and just opportunities for our clients, our victims, to be able to get around town. We've had people that donate bikes so they can get back and forth to work. And those little things really go a long way in that self-esteem piece for our families. Because it's not just the mother, it's the entire family. And as you saw on the slides, we're very proud of the fact that we actually have men who are speaking out and getting the services they need or the counseling, and so we do provide that as well. Because again, that was never talked about. So.
Definitely. Any other questions, council? Thank you, guys. We really appreciate it. Appreciate all you do for the community.
Thank you. I appreciate what you guys do. Thank you. Nice job, Martha.
That'll take us to item 10.5. The mayor and city council shall discuss possible take action on approving an amended month-to-month professional service contract between the City of Maricopa and Northern Arizona Center for Entrepreneurship and for contract services MCE. The month-to-month agreement is for a minimum of 6 months and a maximum of 12. Funding for this agreement was approved in the FY 17-18 General Fund, non-departmental. Denise, take it away.
Yes. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. This evening before you is a contract for professional services for the Maricopa Center for Entrepreneurship. It's an amended contract, so the scope of work is the same, nothing has changed. The only thing that has changed is the term, and that is, instead of an annual contract, going to a month-to-month. One of the questions that has been asked in the past was the procurement process for publishing a new RSOQ for the services, and we have those dates and times. So we will be publishing a RSOQ for MCE services on October 31st, and it will close out on November 30th. We will evaluate respondents in the month of December, and then hopefully begin negotiations in January. So I just wanted to put that in perspective. The other thing that has changed is the annual contract has been for $200,000 a year, which amounts to about $16,666 per month. And what we did is we reduced the amount for the month-to-month contract to $12,500 because we are paying, as you know, the lease for the space for the center. So Quentin Baker is here to answer any questions about the programs and services. Scott Hacock tried to be here, but he was diagnosed with pneumonia, unfortunately. So I can answer any questions, or Quentin Baker can answer questions.
Okay, council, questions? Also, we do have a speaker card for Ms. Carrie Crane. So if I don't see anyone jumping at the bit to ask questions at the moment, we're going to let Terry come on up and speak.
Sure.
What's that?
I feel like I'm walking into the mouth of the lion here. Thank you, Honorable Mayor, Honorable Vice Mayor, members of the council. The Maricopa Chamber of Commerce, its board of directors, and our membership at large would like to request the opportunity to bid on the contract to run the Maricopa Center for Entrepreneurship. The Chamber, by its nature, stands ready and able to create the necessary programs as well as enhance on the services we currently offer to startup businesses here, Here's a recent example of a member that we have assisted. Recently, a member cleaning company came into the chamber for help with a business plan and writing a bid for their first large commercial project. After meeting with the owner and helping them create the necessary documents, they were awarded the contract and are currently cleaning the 24-hour fitness here in town. This is just one example out of many of the businesses support offered by the chamber. The chamber stands prepared and ready to step into a larger, more focused training and mentorship role at any time. The chamber has done the following research and has developed the following partnerships that not only will bring success to our businesses here in Maricopa, but will possibly give the city some wins in the being first category. We like to be first. 98% of our members own businesses here in Maricopa, have kids that go to school here in Maricopa, and they live and shop locally. All these demographics would benefit from our programs. We are 100% focused on growing and developing our local economy. We have a relationship with the Hispanic Chamber and will provide bilingual training. We're currently working with the SBDC to do targeted trainings. The class schedule hasn't been published yet. Having the chamber run MCE keeps all Maricopa tax dollars here in Maricopa. We have a relationship with the Junior Chamber of Commerce International, and we would be the first Arizona JCI chapter. Chambers, by their very nature, are the best equipped to run these programs. The Chamber plays a very important role in economic development by being the business retention arm of the city and supporting local business. We have a built-in talent pool to facilitate sessions, thus supporting local businesses. We also have a built-in self-funding mechanism and we would require less public funds to operate the center. The Chamber Board is committed to the training to become a certified incubator operator if that is required. In closing, the Chamber applauds the city for its commitment to the development and support of our small business. Small business is the backbone of our country and the essence of what we stand for as Maricopans. Hardworking, honest, and true Maricopa grit.
Thank you, Terry. So Denise, can you speak to that just briefly? Clearly there's an interested party here, and I know that you said the RSOQ is going out. Can you kind of give, again, I know you gave the timeline, but just some information as to how they can get together in submitting a bid or however that goes?
Sure. So what we will do is we will provide a list. We have to advertise the bid or the opening of it in several different publications. So that is local newspapers. We will also strategically publicize this in tools such as IEDC, IMBIA, and then we will also provide a list to our procurement department to send the RSOQ directly to interested parties. So there's several organizations that have reached out. There's several different organizations that we have looked at and identified as potential good partners for it. So we certainly will be sharing that. So if the chamber is interested in responding, we would provide their contact information to our procurement department and they would send the RSOQ directly to them.
Okay, perfect. Questions? Councilwoman Gussie.
Now, the clock is running. When did it start? September 1st?
When did what start?
When did this contract start with NASET, with this month-to-month that we have in question today? It started already.
Right. So, Councilwoman Gussie, so what happens when contracts expire, we do go into sort of an informal, I think Dennis can speak to this, where we are somewhat out of compliance, if you will. So yes, right, they are performing services for the city
currently.
Right.
Okay. Now, based on the date, let's say it's September some time frame, you said October, we would have October 31st, we'd get it out, November 30th, and then by December, we'd have the evaluations, and by January, we'll have the negotiations. So if the clock is running at 12,500, so if we gave it 5 months, that's 62,500. That's going on the dates that you have, or can you get it done sooner? Probably not.
Councilwoman Gussie, you know, I looked at what our procurement process looked like when we identified NASET as a vendor, and the negotiation period was 8 to 9 months. So I believe that we have a strong foundation as to the services that we want delivered and what our expectations are. So I would like to think that we are able to reduce that negotiation period significantly.
But according to the information you gave us, it's 5 months, right? 5 months based on the 12,500, that's 62,500.
Right.
Roughly.
So,
all right. So that's what we would have if we met that time frame that you just gave us. And then you mentioned, how many years has NASET been awarded the contract?
Councilwoman Gussie, the first award was in 2014.
So 4 years?
Correct.
So for roughly 200, or has it changed in
It's
between?
always been 200,000 a year.
So, okay. That's $800,000. Okay. Now, just really quick, I did a little research, and NASET currently runs the innovations in Chandler. And Chandler, it is sponsored by, the facility sponsor is ASU, correct? Arizona State University is the facility sponsor.
Councilman Gussie, Chandler Innovation Center has recently transitioned into a facility that is owned by ASU. So they previously leased out space So yes, they are occupying space that is owned by ASU.
So they're not, NASET is not getting the rent paid for through any other sponsor other than ASU, because ASU owns the land or the location, correct?
Councilman Gussie, I don't know the entire ins and outs of the contract for
NASET,
Chandler Innovation,
okay.
so I don't want to misspeak. I do know that they occupy space there. I don't know if there's a fee, if there's a sliding scale, if there's a partnership. I cannot fully elaborate on that.
This is just based out of their website, so I'm just going to assume their website's correct. And I looked for these specific locations that I'm going to state right now because they're the closest one to here to Maricopa. So NASET runs the innovations in Chandler. The Center for Entrepreneurial Innovations, the campus that's currently at Gateway Community College, is funded through the Maricopa Community College District, the U.S. Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration, the City of Phoenix, and Blue Cross Blue Shield. And once again, this is all information from their website. And then the last one that I'm going to quote here is the Central Arizona College, SBDC, is hosted by the Maricopa Community College, the Maricopa County Community College District, by partnerships with the U.S. Small Business Administration and accredited by SBDC. Now, the reason why I bring all these things, because in my opinion, the city shouldn't be the sole funder of any entrepreneurship program. That is my opinion. And we need to find a company that's better equipped to run our entrepreneurship programs. Now, all of these that I just quoted, the three closest to the city of Maricopa, these all have partnerships and sponsorships and grant money and deep pockets. If you look at the Maricopa Community College District, they have 10 community colleges plus 2 skill centers. That's 12 colleges that are putting in funds and entrepreneurship development for this specific location, which is the only one within the community colleges is at Gateway Community College. But anyways, going on to my point, I don't know if we're all willing to continue to fund, although this proposal is month to month, and you had mentioned that it would take approximately 5 months for us to, if we move forward with this, it would take approximately 5 months at $62,500. With how much accountability have we received from NACET to this date? And to me, in my opinion, I'm afraid that we haven't received much. So realistically, NACET will be funded for the next 5 months. What are they going to produce that we cannot produce for ourselves? That's why I was so adamant about not continuing with the lease. And I understand that that's not the question, the matter we have in question right now. But for us to continue month to month, and if we could get it as fast as we could get it, is 5 months, that's $62,500 that we're going to continue to fund NACET with. And I just heard you say it again today. You said you're not willing to fund another study. Well, consider those 4 years with NACET your study, because that's where we're at today. Thank you.
Denise, can you talk about other cities that have incubator programs? Peoria, Surprise, Scottsdale.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, can you talk about other cities our size that have incubator programs? And how do they start out, and how do they go, and where do they come from, and what do they ultimately try and accomplish?
And Mayor, if it's okay, I'd like to address, I think, Councilwoman Gussie's thoughts. I think that, you identified some major assets within the state and within the region. So Chandler Innovation Center is, we can dissect the contract in and out. One of our challenges is simply that we don't have the space. If we are tasked with looking at more creative ways to leverage partnerships within the community, that's certainly something that we can explore. CEI was an incubator that was initially managed by NACET and then spun out, and these more grandiose partnerships were delivered after that, because we stand more to lose as a region by not supporting entrepreneurs and creating an ecosystem that can help these businesses thrive. MCC, the Maricopa Community College District, is the largest community college in the nation, so we have the ability as a state to funnel more individuals to them. And the SBDC, you mentioned them as being housed out of Central Arizona College. They are not considered an incubator. There's an SBDC in all of the community colleges, and some of them, there's different types of partnerships, and that's certainly something that we've looked at and evaluated. If they can have a larger arm, if they can, service MCE. So there's certainly creative approaches to having an incubator. As far as what the mayor asked, I looked at the city of Surprise, the town of Queen Creek. Every city that is in our metro area has some type of organization that supports the entrepreneurs. The ultimate goal is that we are providing an environment where there is innovation occurring, and we can help people get to commercialization, whether that is through the services or that is through the identification of capital. And some cities are going to have bigger wins than us because they have bigger assets. So, for example, ASU. Not everybody has an ASU in their backyard, so some of us have to work twice as hard or make a bigger investment and a bigger commitment to support entrepreneurs and this type of business attraction and development within the community.
So, I don't disagree. I think that, the ultimate goal here is to get to the point where, we don't have to be the sole funder. That's the nature of partnerships and moving something forward. But this is startup capital. This is what we've been talking about. It's economic gardening. The whole purpose of economic gardening is you don't start with a watermelon. You start with a seed. and the seed grows through much cultivation and water and, lots of attention and lots of effort and investment and time and all the other things that go into it. And so, unfortunately in gardening, we go over this many times where we find that the soil isn't right, or the conditions aren't right, or the plant isn't right, and all these different things. But I don't think most of us that garden give up gardening over that. What we do is we change the way we garden. And I think that's what's before us here tonight, is the discussion in how do we garden to the best of our ability and utilize those that are interested in doing this. I mean, the Chamber presents a very interesting argument. I mean, certainly I think that's something to be considered. I know that in the discussions as we've talked about, NACET and what we feel have been their strengths and certainly their weaknesses, the idea has been to go back out for an RSOQ because, supporting entrepreneurs is an absolutely key and mission critical juncture of this city into helping them become something larger. And it doesn't happen overnight. So yeah, it's not fun to not see what we want it to be overnight, but again, the city's taken 15 years to get to this point. It didn't happen overnight. And we don't give up on it. We keep going, we keep trying. And so I think that that's the whole point here. Now, that isn't to say that we don't hit points of, going back and hitting metrics. I mean, I think this council has sat here multiple times and said, these are the metrics that we want to see, and that's what we've sent back to Quentin, which he has provided to us. And at the same time, if we have felt that hasn't been adequate, again, that's why the RSOQ is before us. So, I just think that, we have to take a much broader perspective in what, entrepreneurship is and understanding what we're trying to create here. Other questions?
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, so first I want to make a clarification. The MCE or NACET contract really has been a full 3 years. It was 14-15, then 15-16, and then 16-17, and now we're talking about the 17-18. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. It's not 4 years, it is 3 years. Second of all, regarding metrics, I want to completely agree with Councilwoman Gussie. I, for the last 3 years of my working on City Council, have continued to ask the question, which is one of the metrics within the contract, when are you going to become self-supportive? And you're right, it doesn't happen immediately, it doesn't happen overnight, but over a 3-year period, I think I would have wanted to see a little bit of sponsorship that ends up being heading in the direction of self-supporting MCA. So I am disappointed by that and wanted to support that thought process. So my question to Denise is, at this point, is it a matter of continuing with NACET on a month-to-month, or is there the option of looking at an interim, such as the Chamber of Commerce, to do that month-to-month until the RFQ goes out? What options do we have in that area?
Councilwoman Smith, I would have to defer to our procurement process. I'm not entirely sure if that's something that we can do. What I would say is that it's certainly something that we can explore, but it would still be month to month. I don't know, Gregory, do you have any thoughts on this?
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Smith, certainly if the Mayor and Council's direction tonight was to end the arrangement that we have with NACET, legally we can certainly do that. But I will tell you, it's not as easy as just flipping a switch and getting someone on board. So we might end up needing to have more of a limited, that's why we're on month to month. So we could go 1 month, 2 months, but as a part of that process, I think it's better to have more of a gradual takeover by another organization versus a sever of a relationship with NACET. My concern is that we don't want to injure the organizations that are participating in MCE today. And so if we do a more gradual process, that might be a better way, a better approach to making that transition.
Yeah, I would agree with you. In fact, I'm definitely leaning in the direction of the transitional month-to-month with NASET. But I just wanted to know and open up the dialogue on what our options are. And it sounds like the options to have an interim solution are far more challenging than doing a transitional. Am I understanding you correctly?
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Smith, I would agree, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Wade.
Thank you for the presentation. I agree with Councilwoman Smith in that we need to understand where we're going because we've had a problem with where we've been thus far. But I'm of the mindset to let the process take its course. If we're going to do an RFP, an RFQ, let it take its course. Any of those organizations that are out there that want to participate, that want to submit, then let them go through that process, and then we can determine as to whether or not that would be a good fit for what we're doing. And I'm assuming that we would be including NASET as one to submit if that is proper and appropriate, that they may have the opportunity to come and submit a bid just like everyone else. So I think we could sit here and have a conversation for a really long time about things that we don't know, things that we would like to see, but I think we need to let the process take its course, and then we'll have a very firm understanding about comparing apples and apples as opposed to apples and oranges, which I think is where we are right now.
Councilmember Wade, I certainly agree with you. I think, what you could certainly do is you could just lose people, and we just not having that continuity makes it a bit challenging. And really, we're just delaying something that we will still have to go through, right? If we find an interim solution, that does not mean that we're going to put off the formal procurement process.
Councilmember Manfredi.
I'm a Band-Aid type of guy. And that simply means I believe at times when you think something's failed, it's time to rip off that Band-Aid and get rid of it. I look at NASET as a failure, and I know that it's not something a lot of people agree with me. I don't see Quentin as a failure. I think Quentin's done a wonderful job. I think Quentin is a remarkable asset for the city of Maricopa. I think he's brought stability to MCE. I think NASET has failed Quentin. I think NASET has failed the city of Maricopa. I don't want to give him another dollar to NASET. If I can keep Quentin on full time, that's a great thing. My question then, I think, that I'd like answered is, I'm reading it and it says that it's a month-to-month agreement with a minimum of 6 months. That's what it says here. So that means if we say yes today, we are stuck at 6 months, even though it's a month-to-month, or we can stop at any time.
Councilmember Manfredi, we can stop at any time. We can, produce a 30-day notice saying that we would like to terminate our agreement. The minimum of 6 months was to get us through the procurement process so that they didn't say, hey, forget Maricopa, we're going to go off and bid on this other contract and take our resources elsewhere. It was really just so that we had that continued service for our local entrepreneurs.
And then the second part of my question then is, if we're giving $12,000 to NASET and they're funding Maricopa Center for Entrepreneurship, they're paying Quentin, they're not paying rent anymore, we're paying that. They're paying electricity and et cetera, the part-time that you have there. Where's all the other money going, I guess is my question. Because I see the programs being done at MCE, and I see them as the work of Quentin. I see them as the work of the people here at MCE. I don't see resources coming from NASET. And it's not something I'm trying to be mean about, it's just I don't see the resources from NASET. I don't see it coming to Maricopa. I see Quentin working very hard. I see the people at MCE on a daily basis working hard. But I feel, and he's probably too good of a guy to say it, I feel he's on an island here. And NASET is using money that we're paying them to fund other stuff, in my opinion. I don't think it's actually being used to fund Maricopa. So for me, it's hard for me to vote yes on this, and I'm going to have to probably listen to a couple other people before I make a decision on it, but I'm really up in the air at this point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Councilmember Chapados.
There's a lot of dancing and I don't hear any music, so I'm going to cut to the bottom line. Can we have one without the other? Can Quinton stay if NACET's contract isn't renewed?
From Mayor, Councilmember Chapados, I believe that Quinn is under contract with NACET, but I will let him respond to that question.
Hello? Yeah, I'm Councilwoman and Mayor. I am currently under contract with NACET as of, I don't know, I would say maybe 6 months ago, a little bit before. And so I don't know what that process would look like. I don't know what the RSQ, is that what it's called? I'm sorry. I'm used to RFP, but sorry. Okay, so I don't know what that would look like. I don't own like a 501c3 or anything of that nature. However, you know, the resources that are at MCE currently are provided by NACET. The work that I've been doing has been provided by NACET, and even, you know, in my goal to provide a incubator and a binder is something that has been done over using the resources around NACET as well as my own. So I don't know what that would look like, and I mean, I'm open to any conversation, however, but I don't know what that would look like.
What I'm hearing, the short answer is no. So going back to what the mayor said about economic gardening, I think for me the issue is we've got a weed in the garden. We don't want to plow the whole thing under. But if we say no to one, it's no to all. So is it worth for this council to stick with what we got, knowing that we intend to change it somehow so we don't lose the whole project? We don't lose the continuity and the resources that we do have available for our entrepreneurs and our businesses.
Councilmember Chapados, was that a question? Was that a statement?
Sure.
You know, I certainly appreciate Councilwoman Smith reiterating the fact that it's been 3 years, because, you know, we forget that the first year the incubator was a virtual incubator. There was no space for it. You could call up at that time Tom Baxter, and he would meet you at a coffee shop. The first couple of meetings that we held to invite people out of their dining rooms and their garages were tech-focused. The second year, we had Dan Beach here, and he was super creative, and he was our yes man. And he's the one that negotiated the one-year lease when they laughed at me when I said, yeah, we'd like to renew a one-year lease. And he did it, and he went out and found space that CAC had previously occupied, and then he brought on these art and entrepreneurs. So the program itself has evolved. The main component that we are having a lot of heartburn over is how do we help it become self-sustaining, or at least alleviate some of the financial costs to the city. And I think that with the program in this phase, that we're almost there. I think that, you know, so I think that we're going to have growing pains with our incubator. I think we need to have an incubator that supports it, whether it's an independent contractor that comes in or it's another organization. You know, we need to have a resource that supports our local businesses.
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Chapados, Denise, as I understand it, our recommendation is to approve the month-to-month lease with a maximum of 6 months. Part of that, as I understand it, will be transitional period. It is very likely, though, that time frame will be significantly reduced.
City Manager, that is the goal.
Okay.
And I appreciate that, but right now, I think what I'm hearing from my fellow council members is that the local resource is trying to do his best. The Flagstaff resource has failed us in more than one ways. But the other thing, too, that you just mentioned, in 3 years, we've had 3 directors there. So there's been no consistent continuity. 2 of those years have been in an actual physical space. 1 has been virtual. So like everything Maricopa attempts, we never take the easy road. It's always one thing after another, but I'm not in a position right now to say unequivocally, let's just scrap the whole program and start fresh. There needs to be that transition, and we need to provide whatever element of continuity we are able to, unfortunately at a cost that it hurts.
Sure.
Okay, to not have that support and those resources from NASET. And I think this council has individually as well as unanimously been very vocal to NASET to say, here's where the shortcomings were. Thanks to Quentin, this was the first time that we've ever had substantive statistics and analysis. And like you said, Denise, it's baby steps. It's the first time, it's the first step. So right now I'm leaning again towards following the recommendation of staff is to renew it for the 6 months, hopefully to expedite and have a solution sooner than later, but I'm not in favor of scrapping the whole thing.
Councilmember Wade.
Mr. Mayor, or Denise and Mr. Rose, I really do want some clarification on this 6 months versus 12 months issue, because this seems to me that that's a contractual agreement we're making when we use the terms minimum of 6 months. Maybe you would delve into that, Councilor, because I think we're setting ourselves up for a situation that if we decide to pull out at 3 months and they come back and say, well, you said you were going to go 6 months with us or up to 12 months. So I really like some clarification on that.
Councilmember Wade, there is language built into our current contract that allows us to terminate with a 30-day notice. And that language extends over to this new modified amended contract.
But I was going to say, is this not an amendment to that contract by using the term
is.
6 months? But you using the term 6 months?
Well, in the agreement in section 2 says section 3 of the agreement regarding terms shall be amended to extend the initial term of the agreement on a month-to-month basis for up to 1 additional year until September 30th, 2018, unless terminated as provided in the agreement in the first amendment. And I think that's where the 30-day notice
So
is.
the 12 months, I agree. I understand. I see that 12 months, but you've added that 6 month piece in there as a minimum.
I think it's in the memo, but it's not in this agreement.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure I had clarity on that. But I go back to what I said earlier. Let's let the process take its course. And if there's if the chamber wants to submit an application, RFP, let them do so, and anyone else, and then we'll let the matters go for that. I would not want any undue influence to come into play on either side, whether it be because we like Quentin and I do, or whether or not because we like the chamber, which I do, so let's let the process take its natural course.
Thank you, Councilmember Wade.
Honorable Mayor and Councilmember Wade, I think if the mayor and council is comfortable with setting a maximum of 6 months, we're certainly as staff comfortable with that. It would be my intention if it was going to exceed 6 months, I need to bring that back to you anyway for a report. So the maximum of 6 months, I'm fairly sure that we will have it well before then, but setting that, I think, establishes a clear expectation and a time frame for us.
I'm good with that.
And I'm not trying to be argumentative or anything, but again, when I have a document that tells me I have a period of time to operate in, and someone decides to reduce that period of time, I'm going to go back to that document that said I had that period of time to operate in. This says 6 months. Now the agreement may not, which is fine with me. I'm not suggesting that we say a minimum of 6 months, or a maximum of 6 months. But I'm suggesting that if we're saying a minimum of 6 months, we would have to operate in that period of time unless it was different. So I'll defer to the fact that it's different.
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Wade, I think one establishes a contractual arrangement, which is the 30-day. The other really is just seeing when do we need to bring this back to you if it's going to exceed. So you're giving us authorization, if you approve this at a maximum of 6 months, to continue on a month-to-month basis up to 6 months. That's all you're authorizing. Okay. So if we exceed that 6 month period, we're going to have to come back to you for another authorization. My intention, and I think that is the intention of our Economic Development Director, is to do it within that time frame. Have the request for proposals or request for qualifications, as well as to negotiate a contractual arrangement with a new overseer of the MCE program or with NASET. That's going to be a policy decision that you will end up making.
I also think Denise said something earlier that I think, this is a contractual nuance that I think we need to be aware of, and that is Denise said something interesting. I mean, we are all sitting up here saying that we are no fans of NASET at this point. That's not to say Quentin and his team is not doing a great job, but that NASET's not providing what we're asking for. That's the whole purpose of this discussion, right? So in that process, but NASET also is the other side of this contract, and they, at this point, we haven't received anything from them stating that they want out of this contract. So they too would like to see that it continues to run, right? And hopefully in perpetuity. I'm just assuming if I was sitting on their board of directors that that's what they would say, right? We want to run this contract in perpetuity, but that's not what's before us. And so both sides have the ability to exercise a 30-day out clause. So if they said, hey, we're tired of being, put down by you guys, we want out in 30 days, they could exercise that, right? But we are saying the same thing, that we are trying to hit this minimum, but for that side that is saying, yes, we want to continue to run and operate this account, then they are not going to take and remove those resources to another facility that they run and just say, well, Maricopa's on their way out, we don't have to provide anything, we're washing our hands and we're done, right? Without submitting that 30-day notice, and even still, they would be required to provide those resources up through the 30th day. So I think that's kind of the contractual nuance here, is that I understand what you're saying, but both of us have a 30-day out, but we're both responsible. If they provide a service, whether we love it or hate it, they provide a service, then we're responsible for paying our contractual obligation until that 30-day amount is exercised. But we are adding one extra layer to that tonight, if we so choose, to add a 6-month minimum maximum here.
Honorable Mayor, the intention would be, if you agree with the 6-month maximum, to change it within that document so that it's crystal clear to everyone that that's all the authorization that you're getting.
So month to month with a 6-month max.
With a 6-month max.
I'd be more comfortable with that.
Councilmember Chapados.
Denise, this may be a question for you or for Quentin. How many people are we talking about right now that are actively enrolled in the entrepreneurship program? And do you have any guidance or advice for council as what the impact will be if the relationship is totally severed at the end of 6 months? Where does that put you in terms of starting something new, continuing a program or a project that's already in the works? What does that do to those people that are using your services?
Councilwoman Chapados, should the contract terminate with NASET, all of the materials, all of the intel, the files, those all become city property. So it really would be, how quickly can we turn around our resources, or what are we going to do to make sure that we are supporting those clients?
And how many clients are we talking about?
Go ahead.
Currently, we have 66 clients, and we have, that's to answer your question, 66.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on this? Yes, Councilmember Chapados. I'm sorry, Gussie, my apologies.
Now, City Manager Rose and Denise, is there a way for us to make sure in this RSOQ, that we could make sure that there are matching funds, or at least that the city is not funding this in perpetuity, 100% city dollars, or city resident dollars?
So, Councilman Gussie, the best place for that type of terminology would be in the contract that we sign with the vendor.
So the negotiation.
And last question, are we going to hold, and we have 6 months, this is what everyone seems to be going towards, are we going to hold NASET accountable? Are they going to have something in this? Are they going to provide us within the next 6 months something to prove to us? And by no means have I ever said anything that is derogatory towards you, Quentin, because you know how I feel about you. We've worked together on several projects. But my question is, are they going to have some skin in the game? Are they going to have some accountability within the next 6 months that they could provide us? We spent this much on this much on that. Is there anything in place right now?
Yes, we have a monthly budget that we review. Quentin and I met and discussed it last week. I can provide monthly reports on MCE happenings and how they're building their pipeline and what they are doing in order to, whether they continue to expand the services or what it'll look like when they turn over the services to the city.
And we're going to have accounting, because we haven't had to date, what all those overhead funds that I know you were new when you came on board, to explain to us what that all went into?
So I know that Scott's number one priority when he took over as CEO was to clean up their accounting. So ideally what you would have is every incubator would have their own cost center and they'd be able to break it down. And I think previously all the funding was going into one bank account. And the way every incubator organized themselves is that we had a budget and they submitted for expenses. So I think that if we're concerned about where dollars are being spent, or are the dollars being spent in Maricopa, we certainly have been spending our dollars in Maricopa to support our entrepreneurs.
And they're going to be able to prove that?
Yeah.
Okay. And, well, one last comment. I just feel that $62,500, if that's how long it's going to take us, 5 months, I still think that's our taxpayer dollars that we're pretty much thrown away. And once again, nothing against you, Quentin. I'm going to vote against it. Thank you.
Councilmember Wade.
Mayor.
Let's go to Councilmember Smith and then Councilmember Wade.
Hi, Cindy for Clinton to answer this question. I noticed that in the memo that was provided that we talked about things that will continue to execute the current scope of services. The city seeks the consultants to implement business basics training beginning in October in an effort to recruit 10 to 15 people for track one. So can you tell us more about this goal? Because this goal sounds at least interesting and challenging from what I read, but I'd like to understand it better.
Absolutely, Councilwoman Smith. One of the top priority is how do we grow the clients at the incubator? How do we get more people, how do we get away from the usual suspects, and how do we get new people in there? So Quinn and I have worked really closely on this, and I'll let him share with you the different steps that they've taken to identify more individuals for their Track One program that starts in January.
Hello, and Councilwoman Smith, hi. So what I can say is this: as far as the goal here is to get as many people supported as possible. And what we've done at the center has been able to, number one, create more of a team in order for that to happen. Some of those things have looked as like the mentor party with mentor pools. Some of those other things have been getting advisors around me in order to conduct and create value such that however much money that the city is spending, you actually have value coming for it. The other areas are that the new people that are coming in, the new clients that are coming in are people that we're reaching out to. And thanks to the pitch competition, we've had a new influx of new people that have come in from all over. So much so that we are highly considering creating a external membership where people can pay to receive services and create the center a form of revenue. So with all that being said, we've amped up our marketing, our social media, we've amped up our call outs. We actually have a team dedicated towards just outreach, calling people that are on the small business license list, as well as communicating with other partners. And this is all new. It's all just been in creation, but we're already starting to see on average 2 to 3 new clients a week. So I would say that the goal right now is, creating that value for the city, which has been my number one goal ever since I came in, and that it can be self-sustaining as much as possible internally, such that the results that we see on the outside, people not only want to flock to, want to pay for, but also the city can be proud of and duplicate regardless of who responds to this. Yeah.
I'd like to ask Quentin to talk a little bit more about the events that are held on Wednesdays, as well as what Track One program looks like as well.
Thank you. I would appreciate that because I was really interested in the Track One solving a problem is the title of it,
sure.
And what the goal was in regards to, because it looks like you're going to have it midday and in the evening, and I'm guessing that that's once a week. For how long? And just tell me more about it.
Sure, yeah. So what we have right now currently is the the outreach. So right now we have on Wednesdays an introduction to MCE. So that happens on Wednesday during the evening, as well as Wednesday during the midday. So it can drive traffic towards MCE to kind of know what we do provide, what services we do handle, and what services we do offer. Regarding the Track 1, that is a program where we can, it's meant to help entrepreneurs find and develop and create a cohort as well as like a group and bring groups of entrepreneurs together to identify different problems and identify different solutions that the cohort has or the businesses have. And with that, it allows for them to create an MVP. It allows them to actually test and run through their value proposition statements. It allows them to get multiple perspectives around any specific problem that maybe the business is having or maybe the market is changing and they want to stay above the curve. So this has been directly adopted from Chandler Innovations, which has been provided by NASET. Does that answer your question, Councilwoman?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does. And then I also wanted to draw attention to the memo, just in case any of the council members missed it. MC will be open for business from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday with the office coordinator or executive director on premise. So I know that that was one of our previous requests. And
Yeah, that's
some
essential.
attention to that.
Got that.
Agreed. Thank you. Councilmember Wade.
When will we expect the RSOQ to be produced?
What's your question? When will we expect the RSOQ?
Yes.
That will be published October 31st.
Okay. So that's 1 month of 12/5.
That's in 13 days.
No, I'm just saying, that's 1 month of 12/5, so if you can beat that 62/5, that would be great. Okay. All right. No, just so far, like you said, the clock's running, so that's 1 month of 62/5. If we can avoid the 62/5 and do it fast and furious, then that would be great.
Councilmember Wade, I don't know if you noticed, but we are saving some money since it is a reduced monthly fee. Just don't want to point it out. It's a couple $100 a month.
I'm all about saving money.
Councilmember Smith.
I was just going to say, I'm ready to make a motion.
Is there any further discussion?
Can I just say one thing?
Go ahead.
So, you know, obviously the monthly fee that has been negotiated for the NASET contract, I do want to share with you that there are national standards that identify what incubators cost. So this was not a number that was just pulled out of thin air. This was not a number that NASET pitched to us. This was a number that we identified in the Economic Development Department through research of multiple different types of programming, and this is a national standard. This is what it typically costs for an incubator to run. So I just don't want us to maybe be under the perception that we are going to be moving forward and there will be a significant cost. In order for it to continue to run and manage, it will still be around the same cost, whether it is tiered down from the back, you know, from the end of the contract to some point within the contract, right? Should they be self-sustaining or should they achieve 50% funding, then that's slightly different. So I just don't want us I don't want to mislead anyone and, you know, say that we are going to be reducing the amount because this is a national standard on what incubators cost, and I can certainly provide that information if you guys are looking for it.
Okay, hold on, Councilmember Smith. We have two comments, Vice Mayor and then Councilwoman Gussie.
Denise, that national course of incubators, is that predicated on staff size and hours of service? Because we've not had 5 days a week service. That's one of the complaints I think we've had. Some of the prospective clients who might come in, they didn't have the phone calls answered. There's no one there. So I'd like to know whether or not that's a national size, based on size, or how do you judge that? How does the national organization?
Sure. Vice Mayor, the $200,000, who is the national organization?
Yeah.
Or It's the International Economic Development Council, and they provide the resources around small business and entrepreneurship. And they have consultants, entrepreneurship consultants, that have evaluated different markets and the resources that are needed in order to support incubation. So this is what it costs for the Tech Triangle in North Carolina. That's what it costs to incubate those centers out there the first couple of years. And this is, you know, like I said, I can certainly provide the information. The City of Surprise runs their own incubator, and they've dedicated about $200,000 as well.
All right, Surprise, take that for example. How are they staffed? How many hours a week do they provide service?
So it's 5 days a week as
Okay.
well, and their model is slightly different.
So
because
it's based
city
on
staff.
full-time staffing?
So we should have someone at MCE.
Exactly. We
5 days a
haven't
week.
had that. Because traditionally, most incubators, after 3 years, you move out. You know, you graduate
Right.
out of that facility, and you're on your own. We haven't had that. We really haven't really had an incubator. I don't know what you'd really call it, but it's not an incubator in the true definition. But I'm glad it's full-time, and I'm glad that we're making progress. You've answered my question. Thank you.
Councilwoman Gussie.
My questions is along the lines of Vice Mayor's comments. Now, you had mentioned earlier that Central Arizona College, SBDC, is not an incubator, and MCE is an incubator. What's the difference between the MCE, and I know you mentioned, you already covered the staffing, what's the real difference between the Central Arizona College, SBDC, and the incubator that you mentioned here in MCE? What's the difference?
So the SBDC typically has curriculum built around their financing and their business planning, whereas an incubator is a bit more holistic and does a lot more outreach, community involvement, so that they are part of the fabric of the community, where the SBDC is more template-based services for businesses. They can work hand in hand. MCE, SBD has resources that we can augment at the center, but they historically have not ran incubators, are not viewed as incubators. They provide different types of resources where MCE, a business incubator, approaches the client holistically, right? So whether it's a mentor with an advisory board, whether it's capital, SBDC is a little bit more template-based.
So then comparing the incubator of Chandler ran by Arizona State University, and comparing it to MCE's incubator, I've been to the one at Chandler. They have everything from woodwork, ironwork, everything that you could possibly imagine, everything you can imagine. I'm sorry, but MCE doesn't have any of that. They have a couple of printers that I haven't seen recently, but 3D printers, but that's about it. I mean, how can you call MCE an incubator? Help me see that vision of how different it's an incubator, where other locations such as Chandler's incubator is totally different than what we have here.
Councilwoman Gussie, Chandler is very fortunate that they have assets and an ecosystem that flow people into it. So, I don't know enough to talk about their contract and what it looks like, but I know enough to know that ASU does not run it. It is a contract that is serviced by the Economic Development Department. They have a great relationship. They're able to occupy space. I've met with Christine Bailey, and I've talked to her, and she's like, we are very fortunate. You have the tech shop that's right down the road, and they funnel. I asked, I said, how do you guys do outreach? How do people know about Chandler Innovations? What type of introductions are you doing? How are you involved in the festivals? They're like, we don't have to. We don't have to. ASU's right here, the tech shop's here, Gangplank's down the road. There's a completely different ecosystem, and that just goes back to what I mentioned earlier. We have to work twice as hard. So no, and every incubator looks very different. You know, I went to the City of Surprise, and they had space that they rent out, and they had all their different types of engineers that were working out of there. They had a Google-type company, maybe even Google themselves, or a firm that was then sold off to Google. They have their beehive that supports more of those small, local mom and pop, and they have lockers for people they can place their things there, so it's more co-working space. But this is operated out of an old city hall building.
Yes.
And, you know, they did not have to buy the space. They did not have to lease it. They own it. And it's an old historic shopping center. And there's different municipal services out there. And one building out of the 4 services their entrepreneurship. So yes, every incubator in every community looks extremely different.
So what you're saying essentially, what it makes this MCE incubator special, it's not the 4 walls or what's in there, it's him.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's our local champion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think that's the whole point, right? I think that's what we're all trying to attain here. You know, I think that just along the lines of clarity, you know, I too have been to those ones in Chandler, you know, the Tech Center and Gateway and all these others, Gangplank. I mean, it really is fascinating to look at all of them. But I think the one thing that we cannot forget, and this is the hardest thing for us all to swallow, I think every one of us up here don't want to see a dime of taxpayers' money is wasted. I mean, it's my money too, right? My family helped contribute to it, and I don't want to see it go places that it shouldn't be going either. But at the same time, it's not cheap. I mean, that's just the reality of it. At one point, those facilities in Chandler were being compensated by the city at upwards of $2 million a year. $2 million. You can buy a lot of woodworking and ironworking stuff for $2 million a year. I mean, and they own the building.
That's right.
We don't own the building. So, I mean, the reality is here is this is the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is the dollars that it takes, the vision that it requires, and the ability to bring a partner together and make all 3 of those synergistic so that it works together to create the ultimate outcome. Because if you don't have one of those 3, you don't have the outcomes that we're looking for, and that's the problem. So I think, you know, again, in this 3 years, that's what we've been trying to find. We've been trying to take these pieces from beginning from something, from nothing, and starting it, and it's a hybrid model. I mean, from day one, we've been talking about this being a hybrid model incubator. It's not an incubator in its purest sense, and that hybrid model has added value, but it also adds a drawback. And so again, I think that that's the whole value. You know, I would just thank the council members for the standpoint of understanding that, you know, this, and this is just my perspective on it and my perception on it, but you know, the question before us tonight is to separate these 2, right? It's to separate what Councilman Gussie just said. You know, Quentin is not the problem. He's the help. He's the answer. He's the solution. You know, but we also have a very unique scenario in which we don't get one without the other, unfortunately. And so it really puts us in a tough position. But I think that what we have given is direction to move forward with finding out how do we surgically separate this so that we can accomplish those 3 different pillars here that ultimately get the goals that we're all hoping to see, which is again the accountability, which is the results, which is the, you know, moving things forward, which is, you know, like Vice Mayor said, you know, progressing people through the system, you know, having these stages, all these types of things so that it truly does become what we want it to be. But it doesn't happen overnight, unfortunately. I mean, I hate to go back and say that again, but that's the fact. Has everyone had a chance to ask all their questions? If so, I'm going to go back to Councilmember Smith. She had a motion. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe that the 60-plus customers that are currently in the process really do deserve the opportunity to continue through the process, continue with the flow of developing their business. And as we work through the RSQ process, we'll find out more information, how many entities apply, to give us an opportunity to look at other options, and then make a transition if that's the decision that's made at that time. I also think that the new program, Track 1, shows that Denise and Quentin have been working on things that will be beneficial to some of our residents in the next coming months. And I do appreciate the standard hours that have been changed so that we know that our residents and our businesses have the access. So given that, I'd like to make a motion to approve 10.5.
There's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Vanessa, can we move to roll call, please?
Councilmember Manfredi?
Yes.
Councilmember Wade,
I still need a little bit of clarity.
Mr. Mayor, before we vote on this for a second, I misunderstood the actual motion. We earlier talked about changing the document to 6 months. Was that the motion, or was the motion as it's presented in your packet?
Councilmember Smith?
Yes, I can adjust the motion because it sounded like most council members felt comfortable with the maximum of 6 months.
Okay, thanks.
I'll second that. Are you good with that second? Okay. So let's go back and reiterate Councilmember Manfredi's vote, then based on that clarification as well.
Councilmember Manfredi? Yes. Councilmember Wade?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Chapados?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gussie?
No.
Vice Mayor Brown?
Yes.
Mayor Price?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much, Council, for your discussions. Thank you, Quentin and Denise. And that'll take us to the next item on the agenda, 10.6. The Mayor and City Council shall discuss, possibly take action on approving an updated agreement between the City of Maricopa and the Maricopa Economic Development Alliance for fiscal year 2017-2018. Who is up? Denise, you up again? You just get to stand up here all night. Lucky
I
you.
can. I've stood up here longer. Good evening.
We need to get her a bench.
Good evening, I'm back. So Iwana Morfesis is the senior advisor to the Maricopa Economic Development Alliance, and she apologizes. She let us know 2 weeks ago that she had a scheduling conflict that she was not able to work around, so she is unable to be physically present here, but I'm sure she is watching us on YouTube. So I just wanted to introduce John Schurz, who is the treasurer for the Maricopa Economic Development Alliance. And as you know, it's a public-private partnership for economic development. The organization champions strategies and solutions that foster economic development, growth, and prosperity within the city by bringing together business, government, education, and civic sectors to identify and advance forward-thinking policies that facilitate investment, growth, and workforce in the community. Our members span across the utilities, finance, development, healthcare, and infrastructure development. So we provided a copy of the MEDA annual report, as well as a publication on education that highlights, and I hope I'm not taking any of your talking points, that highlights Maricopa High School, the private schools, the charter schools, Central Arizona College, the University of Arizona Maricopa Agricultural Center, USDA Arid Land and Research Center. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Schurz to talk a little bit more about the contract and how it's performance-based, and I'm also available to answer any questions should you have any.
Thank you, Denise. Mayor Price, Vice Mayor Brown, members of council, city officials, thank you very much. My name is John Schurz, and I am treasurer of MEDA, as well as a board member, and I'm also president and general manager of Orbitel Communications. MEDA is very proud and honored to have the opportunity to work hand in hand with the City of Maricopa as its formal economic development public and private partnership. Since its inception in 2009, MEDA has been working very hard with the city to help facilitate many significant anchor projects, including Walmart, Central Arizona College Maricopa Campus, Banner Health Maricopa Center, Dignity Health Urgent Care. Our relationship is rooted in trust and reciprocity, and the relationships between city government and its local business leaders is fundamentally important to economic development and vitality. The city greatly benefits, as do its residents and its business community. Having a strong cooperative relationship between government and business is the hallmark that almost all companies look for when they are evaluating communities. The fact that the city and MEDA both contribute to this partnership and marketing and communications of Maricopa's quality of life and its business climate is very unique in a larger metropolitan area. There are very few cities that can point to having such a strong financial participation from its private sector in these types of endeavors. Our annual performance contract with the City of Maricopa is based on clearly defined objectives and metrics. We are very accountable and intend to keep that tradition. We thank the city for the increase of $44,500 to $50,000 for our public service award activities. And this is the first such increase since the contract began in 2009. And the META private sector board members have and will continue to meet and exceed this match as well as the marketing match. So thank you to you all for your continued commitment to economic development and for your continued support of META and the partnership it represents on behalf of the city of Maricopa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Questions, council, for John or Denise on META? Any questions? No? Is there a motion then?
So move.
Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all very much.
Appreciate it. All right, that concludes our meeting this evening. We appreciate you all being here. With that, council, we need to go back to E-session. So I don't think, do we need a motion for that? I mean, 'cause it's still open, so we'll just do a motion to move to E-session, please.
So moved.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Thanks. We'll see you again in a couple weeks.